Okay, folks, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly Dungeon Master today. Well, actually, I'll be your friendly Dungeon Muser today, because today we are recording a live stream of sort of the tips and tricks that I have picked up about Roll20. So at the time of recording, we are just over 4,000 subscribers. We recently hit that this week, and one of the things I had mentioned on a stream previously was that when we hit 4,000, I'd be happy to do a stream about the things that I know about Roll20. So that's what we're here for today. First off, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the Dungeon Musings channel over the past couple of years. It's been phenomenal seeing more people coming in and meeting more people in chat and on the Discord server and everything. So a huge thank you to everybody for helping us reach this number. So I look forward to many more years of many more great games with all of you. What today is going to be is I've been jokingly describing this as kind of a Bob Ross style of introduction to Roll20, by which I mean we're going to go through and I'm going to set up a campaign, set up some things in the campaign, and then we are going to make some changes to that campaign to give you a sense of how I would go about approaching this thing. I'm going to talk about all the different the tricks and whatnot, and the sort of the tools that are in Roll20 at the time of recording, which is February 6, 2021. One of the things with Roll20 is a lot of stuff changes over time. So the interface for tokens, for instance, has changed a bunch of different times. The interface for maps has changed twice recently. So what I'm going to be, this may very quickly stale date, but hopefully there will be some approaches that will be helpful for whatever version of Roll20 you end up playing whenever this comes around. The other thing I'd heard in response to my announcement of this was that I guess, especially with the pandemic and the changes that people have had to make with their with their gaming, I'm hoping that this will show DMs. When I first got into Roll20, I thought it was going to be an enormous amount of work that would be a slog. I have not found that to be the case. I've found that it's been an enormous amount of fun, and the rewards for playing with Roll20, in particular some of the tips and tricks and whatnot that you can use, like dynamic lighting, is really great. Another thing, just to avoid any addition warring to, I happen to use Roll20. It's my favorite version for a bunch of different reasons. If your version of a virtual tabletop is different, that's great. But what I don't want to see is people spamming chat or the comment section about, well, this is why this is better and this is why this is better. If that's the way you feel, that's great. I'm probably just going to delete those messages because more often than not, they are very aggressive and they're really, I don't find it to be helpful. This is just about Roll20. If you're here to learn a little bit about how do you make use of Roll20, that's great. If you don't like Roll20 or you find it's bad for whatever reason, that's fine. Just kind of keep it to yourself. People are here to learn about Roll20. That's really it. Not to learn about whatever else. So that said, let's talk about what we're actually going to do today. So what I thought we would do is, and I changed my mind about 20 minutes ago for how I was going to do this. I added something on that I thought I would go through because it's something I use a fair amount, and I think it's a time saver for when you're using existing assets. And there's a couple ways you can make use of that. Let me just quickly make sure that we're actually streaming here. And then I will also be checking in. Oh, I will also be checking in with chat throughout the stream as well too. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in chat, and I will address those as we go. My camera is also in a bit of a strange position right now. I'm going to be moving stuff around as we go as well, so you can make sure to see the screen better. But for now, you have to suffer through with my big stupid head on top of some parts of the screen. So yeah, that's going to be it. We're going to go through. It's going to be a work in progress. It's the first time I've done something like this on the stream, so we will see how things go. Oh, I did not put, I don't think you can see you can't see my cursor on here, but I'm going to try and, let's see if I can change that. Let's see. I should have done this beforehand, because I think showing where my cursor is, it would have been helpful. Oh, you know what? I think I know how to do this. Let's see. Capture cursor. Okay, let's see if that works. And it does. Terrific. Okay, so now you can see my cursor on the screen, which will be helpful. So, the version of Roll20 I'm using is the Pro version. I've had a subscription for well, it says since 2015. I've had that since that time. And yeah, I think for myself, the reason I prefer Roll20 over others is ease of use. I find that it's a very easy program once you learn the tips and tricks and stuff. I find that because I run a lot of different games, I like how many different character sheets that there are on Roll20. And I like that I don't have to make a big purchase up front for Roll20 as well, too. I can just take things in add-ons and whatnot as I need them. So that is that. When you log into Roll20 in the Pro version, this is what you would see is kind of a quick thing that says, you know, how many hours you played. It'll have links on it to the marketplace, to games. The things that are important, I think for here, the marketplace is a helpful place for if you want to pick up assets like compendiums, which are collections of rules that will be integrated into your game if you choose to integrate them. Modules, which can be integrated into your games to include things like maps and adventure handouts and things like that. The full text of adventures are incorporated into some of the Wizards ones. And maps. I love maps. I will mention from the outset the maps that we're going to be using in this are by a guy named Gabriel Pickard. And I'm going to show you on the screen here. Where's my marketplace items? Just so you can have it, because not only does Gabriel Pickard make terrific items, he also allows streamers to make use of the maps for free, or rather without a license or anything. So that is for someone who likes streaming. This is how you spell. Oh, I've got my stupid head over it. Let me move my. Oh, you know, I can scroll down. There you go. That is Gabriel Pickard's. The spelling of his name. He has a huge selection of very reasonably priced maps, and I'll show you how we're going to incorporate those into the game. But I wanted to make sure that he gets a shout out for this because his maps are just phenomenal. So when you first log in, this is what you're going to see: is boom, our login screen. This has our games. I have an awful lot of games on the go, but today we're going to make a new game. We're actually going to make 2 new games. The first game I want to do is, those who are regular viewers of the channel know that our longest running campaign on the channel is our Night Below game. We recently ran, that game uses the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition system for it, but I recently ran what I called a War Story. And a War Story is an adventure that is set in the same world as the ongoing campaign, but it features different characters, sometimes at different places in the campaign world, and sometimes using different sets of rules. I like doing that to fill in some backstory stuff, but also to kind of, you know, get a breath of fresh air and kind of do something different for a time. What we're going to do today is we're going to set up a War Story with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because I love this game a great deal. To have everything set up, we're going to set that game up as if it's something brand new, and I'll show you how we're going to incorporate assets and whatnot into setting up that game. Then what we're going to do is make a copy of that and show you how to set it up for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. I'm hoping that this will kind of touch on all the different ways that you could potentially make use of grabbing stuff from different games and so forth. But let's start off with making a game. So what we got to do is go to the Create New Game tab here. Click on that. And then what it'll do is it'll ignore me. Nope, it won't. Okay, so then what will pop up is the Start the New Game. A couple things that you make a selection for right off the hop. The name of it. You can add tags to it as well if you want to advertise for, you know, group games. I run for a roster of regular players, so I don't ever tag mine because my players, I send them a link to get into the game, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to it. You're going to select what character sheet you want to use. I'll show you the list of character sheets that are on here, but there's an enormous amount of ones to select from. So, you know, depending on what game you're intending on running, there may be a fan-based one, or fan-created. There may be a publisher-created sheet, and there may be a one created by Roll20 itself. Usually, I mean, not usually, but always in collaboration with the publisher. I honestly don't know the difference between the publisher ones and the Roll20 ones. I imagine there's some kind of licensing fee that's paid in some way, and I imagine it's probably access to the Compendium, and we're going to talk about the Compendium because both Pathfinder 2 and D&D 5th have really excellent compendiums that make your job a lot easier. The reason the character sheets are important to select is because it will, many, if not all of them, have a degree of automation in them. that will allow you to just click on a button and it'll roll dice for you. For some games, it just makes it easier when you're rolling online so you can see what the results are. So like D&D or Pathfinder, task resolution is fairly simple. It's a D20 roll. But for games that have huge dice pools or use a lot of dice, like Shadowrun, any of the editions of Shadowrun or the hero system, where you're rolling a big bucket of D6s, the Unity, Ubiquity as well, it honestly saves time. I find that my gameplay is a lot faster for those games in this because of the dice roller, zipping through those dice rolls a lot faster. The other thing you can do when you're creating a new game is if you have purchased modules, like you can see just behind my big stupid head there, I've got some of the things I have purchased, like the Rime and the Frostmaiden, my Legacy of the Crystal Shard campaign that I've been running since the pandemic started. I've been making use of materials and assets from Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. And this is lovely because it's got all the maps and they're set up with dynamic lighting set up properly. I'm going to show you what dynamic lighting is too, so don't worry if you don't know what that term is yet. We'll get to that point and we'll show you what that is and how you set it up and how you make use of it. So if you're making use of a pre-made module, you just click on that and then you create the game from that. And what it'll do is when it creates the game in Roll20 for you, it'll incorporate all of those things. Not only the maps, the handouts, the story stuff, if there's characters in there, the tokens, it will also select the correct character sheet for you. You're not stuck with leaving it as that. You can change the character sheet. So say if you want to run, Curse of Strahd using Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, you can easily do that. You set up the game with the module, and then you'll go in and select a different sheet. But for this one, we know what we want to do. We're going to be creating something from whole cloth. So let's call this Night Below Pathfinder or Pathfinding. There we go. And then what I do is I go down to the character sheets. And so first up, the sheets by Roll20. So here's your listing of those there. Bunch that are in there. There's the Pathfinder 2nd edition one that I want, but let's just go through to so you have a sense of how many there are on here. Here's by publisher. So a bunch of neat ones in there. One cool thing with this screen is you don't need to click, it'll ask you to confirm everything. What you can do is preview things. So let's take a quick look at, we're not going to use these for the game, but let's take a look at some of the cooler ones made by publishers, like Blades in the Dark. So by clicking on that, it'll show me a preview of that. And then if there's anything special you need to do, like let me show you the roll. This is a fan-made one, but say for the One Ring role-playing game, the terrific fantasy or Middle-earth role-playing game published by Cubicle 7 before. Now I can't remember who has it now. Where is it? Where are you, the One Ring? One Ring, where are you? You know what I could do? How about not be a dummy and just type in one. There we go. And it'll find it, the One Ring. So this particular sheet, the reason I wanted to pull this up is because there is a link down here you can see to the One Ring wiki page. In order for this particular game uses special dice, and you need to have specific dice results on the dice show up to make it easily. For one thing, because it's what you use in the game, and for another thing, it's how the character sheet is designed by the people who made it. So what you do is you follow those directions. I have found them to be for the ones that have required special setups are things like Fantasy Flight Star Wars, are One Ring. Legend of the Five Rings from Fantasy Flight has special dice as well. But if you follow the instructions from the wiki page, they're very easy to set up, and you can also incorporate some, there's codes that you can load into your game as well, too, that are drop-down selection things. Like for Fantasy Flight Star Wars or Genesis, you can find if you go to that page, actually, let's take a look at that. You can see what I mean here. I don't do any coding at all. I am completely ignorant of that, so I don't, forgive me if I'm getting some of the terminology wrong. What I know is how to get things done in my sheets to make them do what I want them to do. Let's see here, Star Wars. This is a good example, too. You can see that there is a ton of different Star Wars character sheets here as well. Not only between different, different publishers. For myself, I've been running a lot of, or was at the end of last year running a lot of Star Wars, so this was really helpful for having Star Wars West End Games and Star Wars Saga and Star Wars Fantasy Flight and that 5th Ed hack that some fans had made. This is what the Okay, that's not the one I like. This is the one, API compatible. So this is an example of one that does require a little bit of work, but once you do that work, the game is ready to go and it will always work properly. What you've got here is links through to the API script, I guess, that you need to add onto your game. We're not going to do that today, but I think that's where you go to find out. The step-by-step guides for all of these sheets are very, very easy. They are very clear, and I find it easy to follow how to go and set up those things. You don't need to do that. The vast majority of games that you will run on here, you won't need to go through that extra step. It's only for games that have very specific kind of dice mechanics tricks, like the 2D20 games often require you, like Conan, Star Trek Adventures, what was it? Infinity, and Dishonored. Those ones require you to set up some extra stuff in there, Mutant Chronicles, I suppose. But we don't need to worry about that today. Today, all we need to worry about is setting up a Pathfinder 2nd Edition sheet. So let's make sure this is the one I like. That is the one I like. Terrific. So I've selected my sheet. I've selected my game. I'm ready. Let's create my game. So we click on that. Creating, please wait. Of course, how polite. Roll20, you're so polite. I try to be nice to it because when you're not nice, you get screwed with your dice rolls. All right. So let's see here. What we've got now here is this is my sort of my menu for altering things about the character or about the campaign. You'll have a track of who's actually joined your game. So if you're, say you know you're going to be playing a game with some people, and let's say you're playing with what do you call it? And actually, my stupid head's covering it. Let me see it right there. See where it says 0 players right here? That tells me that no one has joined this game yet. So let's say I'm running a game and it's a one-shot. And I know I've got pre-gens on there, and I've asked people to take a look at the pre-gens before the session to make sure we're ready to go. I can tell whether someone has joined the game or not. I also can tell if someone is having difficulty getting in because they won't have that. 2 different ways you can invite players. One of them is to send an invite. I just clicked on that invite players, and you can type in their email address. Alternatively, what you can do is you can select this link right here, just cut and paste it, put it into email message, Facebook message, Discord chat, whatever you want. Anyone who's got access to that link can click on it, and they will be able to become a player in that game. You will also find as soon as you log in, every time you log into a game, it populates that same link. So if you get in there and someone forgot to follow it and they lost their email, you can cut and paste that and send it off to them. The other things that are important here, you can do things like scheduling and whatnot and add in different game add-ons. I don't really make use of any of that stuff. What I do find, the launch game thing is helpful. Choosing a file to have as your background. So like when players get in, I'm a pretty visual person, so I like having a big, something on there. So let's take a look at what I got available here. Okay, so I got a bunch of, let's use this painting of mine as our picture. So this is, you just select something from I was selecting something from my computer. This is my art computer and streaming computer, so I don't have a lot of extra stuff on there, but you can, any file, any image file that you have downloaded that is less than, I think the cap is 6 megs, 8 megs, I don't know, one or the other. You will know and learn pretty soon. So there we go. So that's going to be our image for the screen. When anyone joins the game or when I look at the games on my list of games, this is the image that will show up. So the other thing I can do is go into settings. Settings is where, remember I mentioned for the Roll20 or for the Star Wars one, you want to add API scripts. That's how you do that here. You go through the API scripts, convert lighting, copy game. That will be an important part for us when we want to make our 5th edition version of this. And then there's game settings. And game settings is really stuff. Let's click on that. This will tell you some of the features that you want to make use of. So, allow public access to the game. Can the public see it and see the details and whatnot? For myself, I keep it no always. Game background image, I don't ever worry about that. allow players to import their own characters. This is if you have characters who, say, have made a character of their own, players have made a character of their own for that system using that sheet in a different game, that will allow them to import them by making use of something called the vault. A vault is sort of like a cloud storage for characters that can be dumped from one thing into another thing. That will allow them to do that. Game default setting. Let's see what's in here. This is, the stuff that will set up when you automatically, if you want to always have new pages set up in a specific way, you can set them here. I never think to do this, but it probably would be helpful. You can not only set up the size of the different pages, and we're going to see what that is in when we get into the actual game. You can set up token defaults as well. So lots of great stuff. If you want to always have the hit points, say, display on the tokens, you can set that stuff up in here as well. If you want what kind of lighting you're going to use, what kind of fog of war you're going to use, all that stuff can be set up to be the default. If you want to change, if you change your mind on what character sheet you want to use, you can go in here and do that. And then some of the character sheets you will find that will have different options for setting up, so that they'll always display a certain way. Like for instance, in the 5th edition one, I think so by default. I can't remember if it's we'll find out, I guess, when we go over to 5th edition. What it either is it always shows you rolling with advantage and disadvantage, or it always shows you not rolling. I think it always shows you rolling. What I mean by that is when your character makes a roll, whether it's a skill roll, attack roll, whatever, saving throw, it will display 2 results for it. And the reason it does that on the default sheet is because that's the setting. And you can turn that off if you want. Like for this one, I've got auto roll critical damage. I always have that on. And then this bar 1 value, bar 2 maximum, this is how you set up the default characters, or the default tokens, if you drag and drop from your characters. I'm going to get rid of that because the bar 1 is green, bar 2 is blue, and bar 3 is red. I always like using red for health because I've played far too much Diablo and World of Warcraft. So that's how we got everything set up here. That looks good to me. We're going to save our changes. So the settings are good. Now let's see how this looks in my list of games. Changes I made may not have been saved. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go to our games. That's okay. Let's leave. So here we go. Now look at that. What we see on there is Kola Hammersmith, or Kola Hammerstone, a character from our Legacy of the Crystal Shard game. So I now know Night Below Pathfinding. That is our game. To do anything substantive in the game now, we're going to need to jump into it. So we're going to click on Launch Game and see what happens. So here we go. When you launch in, there's a couple things that'll happen. First, your couple default things will happen. Okay, so wants to use my microphone. It wants to use my camera. The reason it's doing that is because at default, what the Roll20 does is it always sets your camera on. It always sets your video on. My video is not showing up in here because I think I'm using it in the stream, so that's probably why. But what you're looking at is the default grid that is on the first. They'll always generate one page for you. Unless you've set something differently, it's going to be white with kind of a gray grid, a square grid on it. I mentioned that there is that link that you can always cut and paste. That's right here. So this, if you need to hop in and you want to post in Discord or an email or whatever to people to join your game, that's what you do there. You just cut and paste that sucker. For myself, I also, when we record on the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel, we used to use Google Hangouts, and now we use Google Meets to capture the audio. So I'll show you what I do to change that. If I go to this cog over here, if you've been playing in a lot of Roll20 games, you will find that you have a lot more options when you are a DM, or the player, or the game master, I guess, of the game. Instead of just having the chat and then your settings and then your characters tab, what you're going to have, or journal tab, you're going to have your chat. This will be where dice results, messages from other players, things like that will show up. You'll have, this is your images. So that'll be your own library. These are things that I have loaded up into Roll20 over the years. And the premium assets are things that I purchased or things that I got by virtue of my subscription. One of the things Roll20 has done in the last maybe 4 or 5 months, has started giving premiums. If you're a Roll20 subscriber on the pro level, you get free stuff every month. And some of it's not, I mean, it's very niche sometimes, but the stuff that I've seen thus far has been really cool. I haven't used it in any games yet, only because I forget, and because Gabriel Pickard's maps are awesome, so I tend to just use those. My marketplace purchases, though, will be under here. So all the different things I've purchased for use in my games will be under here. And then if I want to do a search for the internet, one of the things I think is hilarious is, so let's, on this drop-down menu, I'm going to select it. I'm not just looking for tokens or maps or portraits. I want everything, every result for this potential image search here. I'm going to go, so Liza, I wanted to look for lizard folk. And what I think is hilarious is I get lots of pictures of Liza Minnelli. So if you want to add Liza Minnelli or lizard folk into your game, this is a way to search it. Cool thing with that search function is it searches your library as well as the internet, and then also premium assets that you can purchase. I kind of wish the premium assets thing didn't show up because if I don't have it, I don't need it to show up because you can't make a purchase through this click, but small problem. And in comparison to real problems, probably not much of anything. What you also can find, one of the things I would suggest as well, is when you are adding assets of your own. And the way you do that, let's say that I didn't have, let's add another picture in here. Okay, so let's go to upload. This, and then it says upload files. I choose a file. So here's my drawing files. Let's do, I don't know. Oh, I've been meaning to add this in. Here is the portrait I drew of a priest of St. Cuthbert who's been showing up in our Legacy of the Crystal Shard game. So what'll happen is it'll think for a little bit. If it can't load the image, it'll just not show up. If it can load the image because it's the proper size and the proper format, then you can see it's right there now. If it doesn't show up, or if you do something like, one of the things I find is when I am on one computer and I go onto a different computer and I want to like add something in, often it won't show up in the open game. So what I do is I go over here to this little button. Oh, my head's in the way. Hold on. Let me move my big stupid head out of the way here, guys. Whoop, that's the wrong thing. Leave that there. Boom. There it is. There we go. There we are. Sorry, forgive me. I'm trying to find a way to make sure I am still in frame here, but not... Okay. There we go. Sorry if you missed anything there. I think you may have missed all of that because of my placement of my camera. So let me quickly go through that again. What we did, we clicked on upload here. So upload prompted this thing here. What I do here is then I clicked on choose a file. It prompted this open screen where my face is now. Let me move that over. Boom. It looked like that, just like any other opening a file thing. Let's here load up this image now. So I select my image, I click open. It'll take a moment. It'll load it up. And then if it loads properly and I'm loading from this computer, it'll pop up right over here. So let's see if it shows up. And it did not. So what I'll do then is click on this refresh button here. Boom, and look at that. There's where he is. So these images, I'll show you how we're going to make use of these images as we go through the tutorial. But that's how you add things in and how you search in the premium assets. Click this, and these are all my purchases in here. Most of these are Gabriel Pickard maps because his maps are terrific. So that is the images tab there. Your journal is where you're going to have all your characters and all your handouts. So if I create, when you click on add here, you can create a folder to organize things. You can create a handout, which is just a picture or, you know, something that people want to write things on, or a character. A character will create a version of the character sheet that you have selected that will have all the different functionality that you have in that. So let's click on character. Then you will see this pop up. What this is the options you have for for identifying who this character is. And what we're going to do is today we're going to make a version. Our character we're going to make is a version of Droon Axebrother. This is Dave Fortier's character from our Night Below campaign. In players' journals, that will tell you who can access this thing, who can see it in their journals tab. We'll put down all players can see it, and who can edit and control it. seeing it doesn't give you a chance to actually, make use of the thing. Let's say all players to start with. Now, if I had players in this game and I click this drop down, it would show me the names of all of the different players who are playing in our game. So when you look through it, you'd be able to see, who the players are, and you can assign so just that person either can see it or just that person can control it. What I often end up doing is I'll go in and I will set up the character sheet, and then I'll forget to change it over so that only one person controls it. And the reason that can be a problem is because the way the default dynamic lighting works is if someone has the ability to edit a character, then they can see everything that that token can see. So if everyone in the party can see what everyone can see, it means that you're not having that cool, immersive feel of only seeing what your character can see. So it's something to be aware of. If you're having issues with visibility or with characters seeing too much, that's often what's happened is you just need to edit the permissions. I'll show you how we can get back in here. Actually, let's do this here. So we'll save this. That's what the character sheet looks like now. If I want to get back and edit it further, let me move it over here. Then what I do is click on edit, because I want to add a picture in here too, of course. So let's go into my image archive. Now, I don't think in my library I actually named it Droon, but let's take a look if I'm wrong here. So I'm going to put Droon in. I do have a Droon portrait in there. Look at that. But that's not the full-size image. So what I can do is I'm going to save it back in my brain. I've got that. I know it's probably loaded as one of my day, because I have day of whatever, day blank of drawing. So let's take a look through these things. I scroll over here, and it'll automatically, there he is. So there's Droon Axe Brother. So what I'm going to do now is just left-click on it, drag it over, drop it in that avatar box, and boom. I now have Droon Axe Brother's image. And if I hit save, that now shows up on his screen. And if I go back to the journal tab, I now have Droon's avatar showing up in the list of characters. If I want to have a handout of him as well too, so I can, as I'm doing introductions, say I can show this dapper dwarf, then what I do is go back into the images tab again. I go back to that one, drag it over, boom, drop it in, and rename that Droon Axe Brother. Oops, Axe Brother. Bruder Axe. So we save it, and that is what a handout looks like. I had someone ask as well too about how do I make the handouts pop out the way I do. So at default, the handouts do not have anyone able to see them. You can set the permissions the way I did with a character sheet if you like, but I like doing the reveal. I like, this is what you see and this is what you have. You can see by shorthand, see the little blue dot I'm pointing at right now? Oh, you can't see it on screen. Oh, did I screw up here? Hold on. Let's see. No, I didn't. So there is a blue dot. Dagnabbit. Let's see here. What's going on stream? No, that's right. Okay. So there is a little blue dot. I don't know why that's not showing up. Did I screw up something here? Well, in any event, what there is a dot, a colored dot next to the character sheets. The color will tell you who has access to that, and it'll correspond. If it's everybody, it's blue. If it is a specific player, it'll show up as that specific player's dot. And if it's multiple players, it'll show up as the color that they have selected. And the color shows up down here. You see where the green is, this awful lime green down here? Let's change that right away. I'm going to change it to my default of maroon. I love that. I use that color in all of my games so that the players always know when I am doing anything on the screen, it's in my default color. And I ask them not to use that color. So currently, if I look at the handouts, I can see that there is no colored dot on there. What that tells me is that no one has it. But to show the players, I click on Show Players. Then it gives me this pop-up that says, this handout isn't currently shared with any players. Do you want to share with all players in the game? And then I click on Show Everyone. And then that will pop up on the character screens. And if you can see here, when I hover over it, there is a little circular like eyeglass or spyglass. If I click on that, boom, it makes it nice and big and fills up the whole screen. Players can do that too. When they click on it, if they want to get a closer look, I do that on my streams because it gives the viewers at home a chance to really see the art we're using. It overlays everything else, so you can't see the cameras, you can't see the, the map or whatever else, but I like having that big reveal. So, and you'll see as well, I mean, you can't see in the stream, unfortunately, but what you will see there is that there is a blue dot that appears next to that, telling me that now that handout is visible to everyone. So it's very easy to look at the list of handouts and see just by what color dot is next to that, what's been shown to everyone. And if there's no dot, it means no one's seen that yet. That's how you go and create the handouts. We're going to talk about the character sheet. Here's what's on the character sheet. We'll deal with that a little later. Let's just finish getting through the tabs that are on the right here. The next one in this one, and this is not in every game, this is the Compendium. And the Compendium gives you a list of all the different rules assets. And different games have different levels of compatibility and functionality with the Compendium. The Compendiums will all serve as a good resource for looking up rules or things like that. Like, let's say I want to look up how Cure Light Wounds works in Pathfinder. So actually, I think it's called Cure Wounds. Can I find it here? Oh, maybe it's called Heal in Pathfinder. I'm searching. Boom, and there we go. Okay, different games, different names. So what this does is I typed in Heal, and then I can see there's a bunch of different options in here for spells, for rules, for feats, and it's always organized by different subcategories. Some compendiums can drag and drop. You can grab something from that and drop it in, and it'll populate whatever the information is in your character sheet. That's particularly helpful for games like Starfinder and D&D 5th and Pathfinder 2, where there's a lot of finicky rules that you want to make sure you've got at a glance, to be able to reference if you need to, instead of having to look it up in a book. And if I click on these, what it'll pop up with is a full explanation of what those rules are. So I've got here the full explanation for Heal. If I need to look that up, or I need to look up grappling rules, let's say. Let's see if I can get that to go up. Whoop, not grappling. Grappling, look at that. There's rules for the actions for grappling hook, and something from the Advanced Player's Guide for it too. Again, the compendiums are not in every game. It's the publisher ones most often, and the ones from Roll20, but they are an enormous time saver. And especially if you're like me and you want to have as much information about certain abilities as you can in those character sheets, I find them to be quite helpful. The next tab over is the jukebox. This is your tunage for your games. You can use sound effects. You can load new things in here. Let's go to Manage Audio, because we want to add some things in here. I'm not going to worry about playlists. I'm going to add a track in here. So the tracks, you can load things in as well too. I have not done that yet. I was intending on doing that relatively recently, but if you want to load stuff in, you can do that. I'm going to go to, there are a couple different things that are incorporated into the Roll20 setup. I'm going to go to Incompetech, who is, what is, all the tracks made by a composer named Kevin MacLeod. Kevin MacLeod is another huge resource for streamers and for other YouTubers and whatnot, because he has a license which lets you make use of some of his audio tracks, so long as you credit him for them. So again, a streamer's best friend is his tracks if you want to incorporate them. If you're playing offline, whatever you want. If you want to upload copyrighted music from whatever your favorite band or your favorite soundtrack or whatever, or score, you can do that with the My Audio thing, and then you can just play it. But let's find something for us to listen to while we are at work here. Now I could scroll through this, but let's find something dark. So we'll have that as a feature in there, and let's say dark and maybe a little upbeat. Let's try action. As you can see, it'll auto-complete for these different functions. And then what you can do without the players hearing is you can just give a quick listen to some of the tracks. Now, one trick I like doing is I start at the bottom and make my way up. And the reason is because my thought process is that most people, when they're looking for their music for their own games and whatnot, are going to start at the top, go down until they find something, and then be good with that, which is why a lot of the tracks that I hear at the top of his list are things I've heard in other YouTube videos or whatever, in different places. For me, I'd like to try and find something that is unique, so it doesn't make people think of like, oh, I heard this in so-and-so's video. So let's see how this sounds. Nope, that's a little too much. How about We Got Trouble? What's it sound like? Nope, that's going to give me a heart attack if I listen to that too much. Unrelenting. I'm sure this sounds... Yeah, it's also going to give me a heart attack. Maybe the combo was not great. How about this one? The Descent. No. That's one I've heard in other things. Oh, you know what one I do like? Ossuary. Let's see if I can find the other ossuary ones. Let's see here. Yes, so he's got some interesting ones that are just sequences of a bunch of different tracks, and it's cool. How about calming here? A little too much. Anna has come to say hi to everyone. Oh, I like this one a lot. Okay, so if I want to add this to the game, one thing I want to do is turn the music down because it's very loud. So let me stop this so you can actually hear me. What I do is I click on Add To. It'll give me an option, Add to Game. And you'll see that it populated now in my my thing there. So I'm going to close the jukebox and I'm going to push play. This is too loud for my likings, so I'm going to go into two different ways we can do this. There is a way of controlling general noise level, which is right here, or you can control the tracks. I find the tracks are inconsistent in audio levels. Some of them are louder than others, so I'm going to move this one down a scooch so it's a nice background and not too overpowering. And I don't want to come back and keep hitting play again, so I'm going to hit this here to hit repeat, just like any other kind of audio player. You can rename these as well too by clicking on, where is it here? Yep, by clicking on it with your left click. Right click will get rid of it, fade in, fade out. So if you want it to slowly get loud and then come into the game and then slowly get quiet at the end of it as it transitions from one song to another, you can do that. If I had multiple ones on here, you'll see there's this little like 3-bar thing showing up. That allows me to move this up and down if I had a bunch of things, so you can organize your tracks however you like. I like renaming them in some ways because it gives me, it's easier for me to remember what musical cues I want to use at different sequences in the adventure. If I have them renamed, the downside is when I want to find them again, it's sometimes a colossal pain in the ass because I've named them Guys in the Crypt, or when they reach Joe's place. So you gotta, if you want to remember the track, if you like it quite a bit, and you don't want to memorize the names of all of Kevin MacLeod's music, then you might want to either write it down or use kind of a combo thing here. So let's call this Tutorial Ossuary, and there we go. That's probably how I should be doing this going forward. So we got some music playing in the background, and that's how we access the jukebox. The last tab, or second to last, are macros. I'm not going to get into the macros because I don't really make use of them. You can make things like rollable tables, and some of the character sheets that you use they'll require you to make rollable tables or require you to make decks. If you're playing Savage Worlds, you're going to want to have a set of playing cards. So if I put show, you'll see down here now I have my playing cards show up. Last thing, or the final tab, let me get rid of this now. Hide, boom, go away, is the kind of general controls here. So my display name, for myself, I always have it down as the Dungeon Muser, because I'm always streaming, so that's my handle, as it were. So that's what I keep there. One thing I'm going to change just right now, I'm going to talk about what's on this tab, but it's because it's driving me nuts. Actually, well, I'll do that in a minute. How white and washed out this is driving me crazy. But let's get through this quick here. So we can change our names. If you want to change your name to anything else, how about the Dungeon Muser, Dungeon Musings. Ugh. Anyway, sometimes what I do is I put my name in with my email address because I'm vain that way, and it's not like I don't say it enough at the end of my videos. But you can change it to whatever you like, and then it'll display down below there. This is if I wanted to control all of the music in one place, I can do that here. See, it's made it quiet, louder, louder. I usually keep it at the max level and then just adjust the track as needed because I find, again, the tracks are kind of all over the place. This is where you set some of the settings for it, like if you're allowing people to use 3D dice, if you want them to show 3D dice. For myself, I don't ever use those things because they're gimmicks, and I find they slow the game down. Not only do they slow the game down, they also slow the program down, because they can chew up a lot of processing power for people. And if you have a big map, some computers are already laboring to keep up with that. So this is the default that's set up. I don't ever change anything in here. This is the way you can change the colors and so forth on default tokens, and we're going to talk about tokens in a little bit. Although one thing I will change here, marker position. No, I'll skip that for now. We'll do that in that. All right. One thing I do change always is if you want to have a bigger or smaller avatar. Someone recently asked us, why don't we use bigger pictures in our stream? So what you could do is, you see my avatar down there in the bottom corner got bigger. I can make it regular. I can make it smaller. I can make it names only. So depending on whether you're making use of the video function in Roll20, this can control some of the real estate that you have in your Roll20 screen. The positions, I always change this because great advice from a player who's also an actor, professional actor, who said putting your cameras closer to your lines of sight is always better because they're more likely to be looking in the camera instead of looking down. So if you're streaming, that's a nice little tip from a pro that I have repurposed. So where the player video avatar location is, I always put it to the top, so it's closest to where everyone's web camera is most likely to be. I leave it player controlled, so if they need to move it or whatever else, they can do that to see some screen. And then you will see that these things can be moved by grabbing that bottom left corner there. So for myself, because I want to be looking in the camera, I always put mine right in the middle there. So, and where that was, sorry, my stupid head, let me move myself down here. This is where it defaulted, was right over here. If you refresh the screen, it'll show up there as well too. I just dragged it over by grabbing that bottom left corner there. Let me put myself back up. Boom, boom. I think that's going to be out of your way for most things now. Again, you can change your color here. And then for myself, I've got the cameras, or the video is off because it's being used for the stream. What is else that you need to know here? In here, if you are making use of just Roll20, and all you're doing is playing the game, you're not streaming or anything like that, and you want to be able to hear everyone and see everyone without using any extra programs, you're going to want to leave these features here as normal. I want to broadcast to others, video and voice. You want your video and your voice to be captured by Roll20 and transmitted to others, and you want to receive from others video and voice. You want their stuff to show up as well. What I do, because I'm streaming the games, is I always change this to video only and video only. So only my video is going out, only my video is coming back. That will prevent us from getting the weird echo that you get sometimes. Then, to make sure that the changes are accepted, I hit reconnect, and then it'll be done. Reconnect is if you're having issues with somebody's web camera, instead of refreshing the whole page, that's a very easy way to fix it, is just go to reconnect. Sometimes, cameras just, they're weird in the way the programs will prioritize them and select them. So if you're having difficulty with the webcam, or you're having difficulty seeing other people's webcams, try hitting reconnect. If that doesn't work, then worry about refreshing your whole page. But until, that's a good first problem. Let's see here. Then at the bottom here, these experimental features, we're not going to worry about any of them except for the transmogrifier. And we're going to talk about that one, not only because it's an awesome Calvin and Hobbes reference, it's also because it is a very, very, very useful tool if you've got a lot of different games that are on the way. So that is what you're going to find in your different tabs. Let's put it back on the chat tab, and I'll say this, hello stream. Boom. And if I put in any chat, it'll show up as follows. It's got my avatar, because that's how I set it up. It's got my name. It's got who I'm playing as, which is the GM, and my message. If I want to whisper something to somebody, what I do is \W, and then I start typing in. So dungeon, and I can see one of them here in the drop-down menu is dungeon. I'm going to click on that. Hello. So if it's a yellow colored thing, it is a whisper. I just whispered to myself, which is a little unnerving. Perhaps I should be setting up a Call to Cthulhu campaign here. But another cool feature is you can roll dice with it, and you can roll any size dice you want. So it's always the same thing, /R space, and then whatever dice you want to roll. 1d20. Rolling the dice, there's what my dice result looks like. If I want to roll that again, or I want to have the same thing entered, I can push up on my directional key, so my arrow key up, and it populates it with the exact same thing. Enter, boom, does it again. That's really helpful for if you're rolling. That's not the only way you can roll dice in the game. You can roll through character sheets. You can also select a dice tool on the side, and we're going to go to those tool features on the side in a moment. But first thing we're going to address is this stupid white screen, because it's driving me crazy. So those are some of the major things you're going to do. I'm trying to think if there's other things that are important to know right now. I don't think so with chat. You'll see what shows up in chat once we've got a character sheet together as well. But now let's go to the maps, because that's how we're going to address this. So the way that you can think of a Roll20 play space is like a series of maps in a binder. So if I click on this page toolbar, it shows me all the different maps, the pages. And I'm saying maps because I make use of them as maps, but it can also be, I've used them for just background images. If I want the players to have something evocative in the background, I'll use a page for that, you know? So let's first go to this one. You can see that there is a big, oh, my stupid head's in the way again. Hold on. Coming to the rescue. Kev, move your head. There we go. So what you can see up here is the number of pages that I have in my game. Right now there's only one. Let's say I want to create a new page. Let's fix this one. The three options I've got here on the side are to create or to duplicate the page, to trash the page, or to change the settings on it. The big red tab that's on here is something that can be moved, and that is what the players are seeing. So right now they're going to log in. All they see is this god-awful white grid. So let's see if we can do something about that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background. I always change the background to black, regardless of whatever's going to go on top of it. And then there are other settings. The size of the page, 25 pixels by 25 pixels. The grid, how big the grid is and what it represents. So you can adjust this to be whatever you want. And there's a ton of different units that you can use as well. The types of grid, so right now it's square, but it could be hexagonal, and either vertically building or horizontally building. So if you want to play some battle tech on here, it's a good way to do that, or hero system. Measurement, because there's different ways. I don't know Manhattan and Euclidean. I honestly don't know how that measures. The difference between 5th edition, 4th edition, and Pathfinder and 3.5 is whether you count diagonals as 1.5 or not. The nice thing with this is, so if you're playing 5th edition, and maybe like the listeners at home may not be familiar with this, but 5th edition, 4th edition, if you're familiar with those games, versions of D&D, you don't count diagonals as anything special. Diagonals count the same as any other kind of move. And by diagonals, I mean if on a square grid you move to one of the ways through your corner. In 3.5 and Pathfinder, you actually count every second diagonal as one extra. And the nice thing with this is that it will measure it for you. So depending on what game you're playing, we'll use D&D 5 for this one. And then you got your cell width, how many pixels it is, if you want to change that. There is the color of your grid. Let's change it to be a little more, let's put it white, because it's going to be on a black background. And then movement, if dynamic lighting barriers restrict movement, this is where you turn it on. And we're going to talk about what dynamic lighting barriers are, but if you want players to not accidentally move through walls, if you set up a dungeon with Diablo-style dynamic lighting where it's only as far as their dark vision or their torches can see, what you don't want is them to accidentally walk through a wall or a locked door or a secret door or something like that. So I would always put this on automatically, and if you have a track that you always want to load up, a musical track, you can select that from here. I happen to only have Ossuary on here, so let's kick that one off whenever we load it. Next thing we do is we can choose between two different kinds of dynamic lighting. And this is one of the ways where this video is likely to date itself, is because the legacy lighting is being faded out, or phased out. If we want to have dynamic lighting on this map, and let's say yes we do, boom, you just click that one on. Anna agrees with that. She's a big fan of dynamic lighting. For those who aren't familiar, Anna is my dog who is having more fun than I am in the background. Not to say I'm not having fun here. Explorer mode. So this is the newest version of dynamic lighting. To be honest, I haven't really used a lot of it unless it's been set up already. Explorer mode reveals areas of the map that players have already explored. Does not reveal. So this is previously called Advanced Fog of War. What this does is if you're running a dungeon and you've got players who don't want to bother keeping track of the actual dungeon map themselves, what this will do is it will show them what they've been through before, but it'll fade it out so they won't see what tokens are active there now. I'll say it one more time because in case it's confusing. As you're going through dynamic lighting, it will slowly reveal things for you. You're making your way through the dungeon. Picture yourself down a 20-foot hallway, then you take a right down another 30-foot hallway that leads into a room, and then you go into the room, which leads into a second antechamber. When you're in that second antechamber, the players can then look back to that room, the corridor, the turn, and they'll see what that map was. But what they won't see is if there's a pack of ghouls now sneaking up on them, that won't be revealed by that. They will just have a way of seeing the map without having to without seeing having the immersion ruined by seeing the monsters as well. It is very practical, like if you are playing a full-on old school game that is really, really immersive and you want to make the players, if they want to navigate around, you would make them take maps. That's true, but it's one of those things where maybe it's easier sometimes for players to just, be able to look at assume that their characters are doing that. And if you agree with that, then that's how you turn this feature on. If you don't want that, if what you want is them only to ever see accurately on that map what their lighting situation and line of sight situation can show, then turn that off. Daylight mode is what used to be called a global illumination. It means there's light everywhere. So any room they go into, there's going to be light. However, it doesn't mean that they can see through walls, so line of sight still applies. And if you are using Explorer mode, then it doesn't show them the tokens that are there. Anything they can't see through line of sight. All it means is that everything is lit up. So if you're playing outdoors in a ruin with a lot of potential line of sight issues, you would use this. If you're playing in a dungeon where everything is lit, like maybe inside an office building or an occupied, dungeon or something like that, like something below the surface of a crypt or church or something like that, then you would use that. And then update when token drop. What this option does is it prevents players from moving their token forward and taking a peek. They don't get to move up and go, okay, over here, what's over here, what's over here. It's only when they release it. It's kind of like releasing your chess piece. If they let go of it, then their thing updates. I like using that a lot, so let's click that on because it has that fun reveal moment of like, oh god, that's there, kind of thing. And you lose that a little bit if you're allowing the players to move their tokens wherever. So we're not going to use daylight mode. We're not going to worry about explorer mode because we're not actually going to be playing this, at least not yet. And the last thing we can change on this one is the darkness opacity. So how dark do we want our screen to be? Honestly, if you're a DM and you're not streaming, I'm not sure why you'd ever fuss with this because it's easier to see everything. Maybe you want to focus a little better or you want to get a clear idea of what the players can see. But for myself, when I stream, I think that the viewers like having some of that stuff hidden from them. The way I stream my games is they're seeing my DM's perspective. So I do like to try and keep them as immersed as I can. So I ratchet up the darkness opacity here. And let's hit save. Boom. Now look at that lovely black screen. So much nicer than what we had before. I'll show you one other trick. If you hold down Alt and then you use your mouse wheel, you can scroll out to zoom out or zoom in. I want to zoom out because I want to add a map on here. I want us to look at a map and see how that lighting feature works. Now, one of the things, there are a bunch of different tools that are along here. We'll go through them in a systematic way to make sure that we cover all of them. But for now, I'm just going to make use of the ones, and I'll tell you kind of what I'm using as I'm doing it. First thing I want to do is I want to find a map. And I'm currently, for each individual page, when you're on the page, you can have 4 different layers that you can be interacting with. There's the objects and tokens layer. That's everything sitting on top of the map. There can be a map and background layer. That's the map underneath and anything you're doing on there. If you're like markings or you've added in scenery or whatever, that's going to go on that layer. There is the GM info overlay. That layer, you can put notes to yourself. You can put monsters that you want to reveal later. The players cannot see that, and it does not interact with anything on any of the upper layers. So if you've got something that gives off light and it's on the GM layer, no one is going to benefit from that light on the objects and tokens layer or the map and background layer. The last one is the dynamic lighting one. The dynamic lighting layer is best thought of as the workplace layer. That layer is not going to have any semblance to what's actually happening in the game. It's going to be a bunch of ugly lines and things like that set up to obstruct line of sight so that it works properly at the table. It sounds, honestly, when I first started reading about it, it sounded extremely complicated. It's very easy. It's a very, very intuitive system, and once you get used to it, it's very easy, even on the fly, to quickly bang out, what you need for dynamic lighting. Any token can be sent to any of those layers, up and down and whatnot. When you have a certain layer selected, that is the default layer that everything goes to. I usually start on the objects and tokens layer unless I have something that I don't want rescaled to fit within the grid. Because we have a grid selected for this, the grid's not, you know what, I know what it is. I know what my problem is here. Let me turn my opacity down so you can actually see the grid. I got it set up so high. There we go. Save settings. So there we go. Can you see that? Let me zoom in a bit more. There you go. It's not super bright because I got the DM opacity ratchet up. Let me turn that way down so you'll see what it actually looks like. Okay, DM opacity. Boom. There we go. Save. Okay. There we go. So there's a grid on there. We're going to assume we're making this for a D&D style game. AD&D, Pathfinder 2, 5th edition, whatever you want. Let's go to our map selection here. So I don't want to search anymore. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to go to my premium assets. Let's go to a ruin. Where's a ruin here? Ooh, Bayou. That sounds cool too. What's in the Bayou? Do I have any ruins in the Bayou? Oh, I do. Look at that. I know. Anna's excited too. All right, we're doing a Bayou. Jeepers. Don't worry. So let's do this. Let's grab what I was looking for is to see if I had a version of this without... Oh, I do. Look at that. Oh, great. I can demonstrate one other thing here. Okay, so let's go over to the Bayou. This is a square map, so I don't need to worry about it resizing. You see how if I brought it in here, it fits neatly within that box? That's not because the thing is necessarily square. It's because it'll resize it. That doesn't mean you need to keep it that size, but when it goes into the objects layer, it automatically resizes there. What I did then is click on the token, and it'll have this blue box show up around it. That's my scaling box. I then grab this little corner down here, drag it out. It'll keep the dimensions as long as I'm grabbing the side like that. I drag it all the way down, and then boom, it'll snap in place. And look at that. I got a creepy shack in the Bayou. Let's now right-click on it, and I have a bunch of options come up. I can do things like delete, copy, paste, undo. Control-Z works in this game too, so if you accidentally move something that you didn't want to move, or you actually deleted something, hit Control-Z, it should undo it. I can move this to front, meaning within that layer, so it's going to be on top. I can move it to the back, so it'll be at the bottom. I can do some advanced things like grouping and blah, blah, blah. I don't need to worry about that. Or I can send it to layers. You can see it's got a blue highlight when I go over the layer option. That tells me where it is right now. Now I could send this to the map layer, or I could send this to the GM layer. Token layer is on top, map layer is below, then GM layer is sort of opaque between the two. And you'll see what that looks like in a moment here. Now that I've set this to fill up the whole screen and I've got it snapped in place to the grid, let's send it to the map layer. And look at that. Now my grid shows up on it. So the grid that will have, I'll have all the other tokens moving around on it, it now fits to the size of this map. The thing is that's pretty cool. It shows what's inside the map, but maybe I want that to be a bit of a surprise when I reveal this to the players. So let's make sure we are on the objects and tokens layer. Then let's grab Gabriel's other one, which is the identical map, but, and we'll once again scale it out. I'm using my my mouse wheel to scroll down as I do this so I can reveal more of the map, snap it in place, and look at that. That's pretty cool. However, it's on the wrong layer, so I'm going to send it down to the map layer. Boom. Now, that looks pretty cool too. And now the players can't see what's inside there because it reveals it. But, you know, what's going to happen when I get down there? You know, I want to be able to see what's inside. So, let's go to the map layer. And this is something I love about Gabriel Pickard's maps, and I've started doing this in other things too. And this, not all of his maps have this feature, but I love it in the city maps and this kind of stuff. So what I do is, let's say I'm moving my characters along here, and they're seeing, oh, look at this, there's that bayou thing. Now we're going to go inside. What I'll do is I will right-click, and because I'm on the map layer, it's going to select the thing that is on top, and I'll click it to back. Boom. And it reveals now that other map that's below it. So now the players, when they move inside, they've got that. But let's add another level of immersion here. Let's add some blocked line of sight. Now we're going to circle back to, when we create characters, we'll come back to this stuff. But since we're dealing with this right now, let's just get this thing set up and we can come back and use it as an example later. So I'm going to go to my dynamic lighting layer. And again, this layer will not have anything to do with what's going on the other maps, and you'll see how that works in a second. So let us go to, so we're on the dynamic lighting layer. I'm going to go to now draw a shape, no, not a shape, a polygon or line. This is the tool I use to draw figures around on here. So let's click on polygon or line. What it'll give me the option is what colors I want to use and what kind I want to use. What I want to do, and this is not because it's right or wrong, this is just the way I happen to do it. I use red for my walls, and I use yellow or orange for my doors. So I'm going to go to red. Oh, wrong red. Come on. No, it's the right red. And then what I'm going to start doing is clicking around. So click there, there. Oh, what are you doing here? There, there. I'm going to start drawing the walls. That each different start, like end point, is a left click. So I'll go left click, left click, left click, left click, and when I'm done, I hit right click. And you'll see how it changed color. That tells me that's locked in place. If I don't do that, so you hit left click, left click, left click, left click, left click, left click, and I forget. I'm like, okay, that one's done. Now let's start on the next wall. Well, oops. So let me hit Control Z. It undoes it. Then what I'll do is right click, and that ends me creating. That tells the program I'm done creating that wall. Now we'll do another one. Left click, right click. Left, 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 right. Left, left, right. And left, 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 a little more, right. Now, even though these kind folks live in a bayou, they still need doors. So let's go to yellow, and then I'm going to create some doors. Now, again, this doesn't need to model what it's never going to show up for the players. They're not going to see this stuff. I'm going to put one dot there. So left click, left click, left click, left click, right click. And you're, of course, sitting there thinking, Kev, no door looks like that. Why on earth are you doing that? I'll show you there's method to my madness in a moment here. So let's say, boom, boom, boom. There we go. Left click, left click, left click, right click. Now, I got all my things ready. I'm going to be the smart Roll20 user that I am and not stupid like Kev and forget to turn off of my drawing tool. I'm going to go to the selection tool. And then what I'm going to do is, let's say my players are making their way along here. One player gets up to this door right here. Oh, if you hold down left, it'll ping like that. Ping. Okay, so, and it'll be in the color that you've selected for yourself. So if you're trying to show something for players, that's one way you can do that. There's another way to make use of arrows as well too. The measurement tool, we find that to be quite helpful too. But players are walking up, and the ping will only show up on the layer that you were actually on. So if your players are saying, I don't know where you are, and you're on the dynamic lighting layer, that's why you're screwing that up. So the reason I set up the doors this way is because I want them very easy to grab. So when my players walk up here and they say, oh, there's a door there, I want to open that door, I am going to unnecessarily and melodramatically say, okay, well, let's open the door. And remember, you chose to open the door. In 3, 2, 1. And then I'll move it aside, and that will no longer block their line of sight. Now, you can delete it if they're never going to close the door again, but if you want to make use of that door again, you want to put it back, they say, oh, I don't like that shed, I want to close that door, I can then put this back in place, and it will once again block their line of sight. Same thing for every one of these doors. You can find other ways to do that as well. I find that to be quite helpful. For dynamic lighting to work, you want to be mindful of seams as well too. You'll see that some of mine go a little bit over in some cases, or I've given just a little bit, punching out. The reason is because I want to err on the side of caution and not have little weird bits where light can stream through and they can look through and see inside. If that's what you intend to do, because there's a murder hole for like an archer slit or something like that, or there's a crack in a window, then that's fine. Just make sure that those gaps are intentional and not because you screwed up setting up your layer. Now, this obviously is a far too ugly map for anyone to play on. I wouldn't want to play on this. This looks hideous. So, fortunately, when we go to the objects and tokens layer, none of it appears. The information that we've entered in on the dynamic lighting layer, all that's there for is just to tell the computer to program how to model the dynamic lighting. So that is there. Now let's go back to the objects and tokens layer. Let's give a very quick test to this. Let's drag a token down for our buddy Drune Axe Brother. So we're going back to his character sheet. But what we need to do is under Edit, if we don't put anything down here under the select a token, what will show up is the big version there. It'll be that same art that you have as the avatar. So like when I drag him over here, I just left click on him, drag him over, and boom, I suddenly have a Drune Axe Brother that's there. But I want something that's not the full thing. I want something that is going to be just his head, because that's what's going to show up. So let's go back to that search we did before. Remember when I looked, I was able to find, hey, Drune's portrait. The way that we get this thing down here is we first bring it into the sheet here. Anything you find in your premium assets or your library can be dragged and dropped down as a part of your map. Now what we do is I left click on that, and then I go back to my character sheet and I say use selected token. So let's do that. Boom. And looky, we got that in there now. The reason that's important is because once we set this up properly with a token, now every time I drop a new drone down here, it should populate, boom, as the actual token instead of the full art. So let's get rid of that first one. So I got my drone down here now. What I need to do is we're going to show you some other tricks with the tokens in a moment. But what I need to do first is make sure that he is set up so he can see in dynamic lighting. So we open this up. That is clicking on the cog that's there. The other one, the little button, that gives you access to colors and different icons that you can put on your character sheet. The cog is how you actually change things, and players cannot do that. It's really only DMs that can make use of this. So, first one is the general stuff here. First, let's select who this is going to be. Represents a character. We are linking this to Droon Axebrother. I honestly don't know why it doesn't automatically set up. I'll bet you I could probably set that up on the master sheet, one of those options about, like, you know, creating tokens. But what I've done now is I have linked this to Droon Axebrother's character sheet. The reason that's important is because I can now set up a lot of these bars to correspond to the character sheet, and when I make changes to the token, it will update onto the character sheet. So an example is, for myself, I always like having the red bar be hit points. So let's make sure the players can see that, and they can edit it if they have the right to edit. And boom, now all players can see, all players can edit. The token, that is, not the character. Then I'm going to go to the attribute selection here, the drop-down menu. I'm going to scroll down until it gets to hit points. And boom. When I have a hit point total on the character sheet, this will be reflected in this token now. For myself, I like having the tokens bottom and overlapping with the characters, because that way when you get into close quarters, all the bars are going to be under that one character. And then you can create auras around there if the game you're happening to play, you know, tracks that kind of stuff, or it's important. I also will put a name. The nameplate by default is the full character name, but that often takes up a lot of space. So for myself, I'm going to change the nameplate to be just Druin, and then I'm going to hit save. Boom, look at that. Now, what you may be saying is, but Kev, we didn't do the lighting. And I'd say, yeah, you're right. So let's go to the dynamic lighting. We want to give this character vision. Boom, now he can see. We also want to give this character night vision. He is a dwarf, so let's let him see in the dark. I can't remember how much night vision you can see. Oh, actually, in Pathfinder 2, they don't track a line of sight at a distance, or they don't give you a flat distance, but let's say 60 feet. So you can see 60 feet in the darkness, and that's it. The token emits light is what you use if the character is carrying a torch or a lantern or has cast a light spell. But for Droon, what I'm setting it up as with night vision is that he will see in the dark, but he won't help anybody else see in the dark. Hit save settings, and now Droon can see. Now if you want to see what he can, you hit Control L, and that will show you, so that's Control L, that will show you what the token sees. So let's move Droon around a bit, and you'll notice, because as I'm moving his token around and I can't see anything extra, but when I stop and I drop him, boom, it updates. That's what we were doing when we were setting up whether it updates on drop. Another thing is now I'm the DM, so I can move him through the walls here. But if I wasn't, boom, look at that, I can't move him. That's pretty, because I'm in the player mode, I can't move through the walls. So that is pretty awesome. Another thing is, what I'm doing to move him around is I am left-clicking on the token and moving him around. If you find that your computer is chugging or moving slowly, you can also use your direction keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, old school video game style to move your character around. So you have different ways of manipulating anything you select. That is particularly helpful when you have troublesome things like things you've drawn or images you've drawn. That can be a huge pain in the ass to manipulate and move those things with a mouse sometimes just to get a grasp on them. So remember, you can move stuff with your buttons as well. But here's Droon making his way along. He can see that far out, but he's got his line of sight blocked. What's in this thing here? I wonder. So let's see what happens when I open that door for Droon. We'll go into the dynamic lighting layer. I'll do my stupid unnecessary flourish, and then boom, we're back in the layer. Let's see what Droon sees. Oh, he sees in there now. And now he can move in, boom, and see what's in that creepy shed. This is one of my favorite things about Roll20, to be honest. I absolutely love the claustrophobic atmosphere you can get with the dynamic lighting. I think it's phenomenally fun. It really helps capture the danger, especially for dungeon crawling or Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy things. It helps capture that on the fear of the unknown that you get with dungeon crawling, where the characters would get. So that is basically how a character is set up, how you move them around. Let's show you one more thing about measuring. I think I just moved in front of my head. No, I didn't. Good. So let's say Droon wants to use an ability, and he wants to see if he can sense evil within that thing, but he's only able to sense evil 30 feet away. Well, one of the ways you could do that is just count the squares. We know that each square is 5 feet because when we created the page over here, right here, it's 5 feet per square, 5 feet per grid. What we can do, because that's set up that way, is we can go to this tool over here, which is the measuring tool. The measuring tool can be set to snap to the center of the grid, snap to a corner, or no snapping at all. I like the no snapping, having that on, because I like being able to point with it. It's easier to communicate sometimes. Let me select that by doing like over here, because it shows like it's a arrow on the end. You can also set that to be visible to others or hide from others. If you're a DM who wants to know whether someone's in range, you can click it so it's hide from others. And now when I measure to see if I can get my horrible, awful creature that's on the roof to jump down on Droon, I can see, okay, 30 feet away, it's too far. But the players are none the wiser. Now, see it, Droon, let's put it to the center and measure from Droon to here. Okay, 30 feet puts them right at the wall, or technically right in that square right there. So if the evil thing in there is more than 30 feet away, in here, say, he's not going to be able to detect that. So then Droon may have to make the careful decision of, oh boy, I guess I got to move a little closer, or perhaps even open the door and go in to this creepy hovel in the bog or bayou. If I want to as well, with it dynamic lighting, it means, let me go to the map layer here, it means that when I use my trick of sending something to the back, it means that he's not gonna see that roof anyway, because of the way that the dynamic lighting works. It blocks for, oh no, but look at that, it shows a little bit of thatch over there. That's pretty cool. Gabriel, once again, fucking awesome map. So, what you could do is turn off the dynamic lighting, and then now Droon can see everything on the, oh, did I do that? I gotta reconnect, I think. Boom. Now, let's see if that worked. Nope, didn't work. Did I forget to save changes? I'll bet you I did. Yep. Save settings, there we go. It's less a tutorial, more a cautionary tale. So here we go. Now, when I hit Control L and try and look and see what Droon can see, he can see everything. But let's say I want to move him over here. Hey, there's a door right here. Now I want to get into the creepy phase. I can go in and click back. Dynamic lighting on, and now it's back and functioning the way that we had set it up. Now, oh, but I didn't, look at that. There's a problem. There's a problem. It should only set up on drop. So let's go into here. Explorer mode, update only on drop. See, I forgot something. Boom, there you go. So, now I fix that problem. So that is one. And if I wanted to combine this with Explorer mode, let me quickly show you what that looks like. Because Explorer mode is I think, pretty cool. Turn that on, save settings. All right, so now what we can see is Droon can only see this area right here. But now as he moves along, and he's revealing more of it, you'll see that there are parts of the map that are hidden to him, so he can't see what's in there. See the stuff that's darker here? He saw that previously from his line of sight, so he knows what the landscape is like, but if I wanted to put a token back there, he would not see that because of the blocking of the line of sight. So where this is helpful is, again, if you are doing... Now, let's see, he sees in here. I realize I screwed up some... Oh, I guess I left that door open, that's why. Boom. There we go. So he goes in the door. He sees in there. Now, when we move out, you'll see, look at that. Even though it blocks line of sight, he can see what's in there, or what the layout was. So if what you want is for the players to be able to go back and strategize of like, hey, did we check that room, or did we do that, or whatever else, the Explorer mode is a really, really good option, especially if you're doing dungeon crawling. If you don't want players to actually do the mapping themselves, and you don't want to have to give them a handout of a slowly revealed map, that's a pretty effective way of doing it. So, and you've got to decide what's right for your game, but it's a good tool to have at hand. So, last thing, let's do this. Let's figure out what Drune's hit points are going to be. Now, I'm going to go to his character sheet, and we're going to look it up. I've got my Hero Forge, or Hero, I think it's Hero Forge Online, whatever it is. Whatever my character builder is for it. We're going to find what his stats are, but let's say that Drune's, we're going to click on the edit here, this little cog that popped up there, boom, and we're going to give his current hit points, where is it here, max hit points will be set by, oh, where is it, why am I not able to change this? Class, hit points, character details. Oh, where are ya? Where are ya? Where are ya? How did I change this before? The current hit points, let's go 20. Enter. So we now have 20. Let's put his max, I don't know how to update it. Let's put his max hit points at 20. Enter. Save settings. That, oh, it didn't show up properly. I may need to close this. Open it up again. Oh, didn't work. Well, we'll figure out what's going on with that when we get to character creation. So, let's close that for now. The reason I wanted to go in there is to show you what happens. Again, Alt, and then your wheel, your mouse wheel, will allow you to zoom in. So if you want to get nice and tight on this stuff, or you want to go way out, you can do that. So we've got ourselves nice and moved in here. We can see very clearly what Drune looks like. You can see he's got 20 hit points out of 20. If he takes damage, let's take 7 points of damage from a underwater skeleton he didn't see. I'll put -7. Hit enter. It'll automatically adjust his thing, and then you'll see his little health bar goes down as well. If he gets healed for 5 points of damage, I click on it again. +5. Enter. He's now got 5 more back. Where things get a little wonky sometimes is when you get into negatives and you keep trying to adjust it back up. What you can always do, if you don't put a plus modifier or a minus modifier, you can just put a number in there, like 20 is max, hit enter, and it'll set it to that. So, depending on how you want to do it. I prefer to let the token do the math, and when it is calibrated properly, it will automatically adjust to the character sheet. And all you need to do is set up the token so that it is set up properly. Now, let's quickly show you how to duplicate a page. I mentioned there's the settings on the page, there's deleting a page, and there's duplicating. Let's duplicate this page. I don't like this map, so I don't want to use that map again. I don't want the tokens to carry over, and I don't want the GM info. Let's duplicate it. Boom. Now we've got a new map. Let's go onto that map. And look at that. There's that lovely black with white grid again. Let's very, very quickly here set up another map, and I want to show you. Let's use a winter map. These are awesome. Boy, look at that. That's super cool. Okay. Once again, because I'm on the objects and tokens layer, it automatically goes there, and it automatically sets up in the grid. I'll now snap this to the grid, and then I will hit right-click, send this to the map layer, and look at that. My tokens now, or my grid now shows up. And with the features all set on Drune, rather than recreate another token, let's hit right-click. We will copy him. We'll bring him over to Winter Wonderland, and we will paste him down. You'll notice as well, I've got the dynamic lighting set up so it is dark. And you can barely see it, the difference between the light area and the dark area. That's because my GM opacity is set quite low. Let's make that a little darker to make it a little more immersive for any casual observers. Let's ratchet this up to about 95. Save. And boy, what a difference that makes. Droon is now alone in the dark, going along. Now let's say he's got a buddy with him and he wants him to benefit from some of his assistance. What he'll do is, I'm going to adjust him. Let's say Droon is human. I mean, God forbid for Droon. He would not be pleased with that, but let's say he is. We'll turn that off. We'll turn on that he has bright light. He's carrying a torch with him. Torch will give off, let's say, 20 or 40 feet of light. However, some of that is low light. Oh, it's in addition to bright light. Okay, so it's at 20 feet of bright, 20 feet of low light, and save it. Now, let's refresh this token here, reconnect. Nope, get off of him. Move him along. Oh, you know what's happened is that the reveal has already, because I've got the Explorer mode on, it is revealing everything. So let me quickly go into the page settings. I'm going to turn Explorer mode off. Save. Now he's in the dark. Now he has vision. He emits bright light. Total light is 50 feet, so why is he all in the dark? What is going on? What have I done wrong here? Let's see. He has vision. He has bright light that's on. Low light, directional, total is 40. Advanced settings, what have I done here? Light multiplier, nope. Okay, so why is that not working? Oh, it seems like... Wait, what layer am I on here? I'm on the token layer. I wonder if... Let me just try reloading this page here. There we go. Oh, you know what? I wonder if I was... There we go. So the problem I had there is I was going for the player view, but the player was on another map. So I needed to move the green or the red ribbon over to here. Now this is working properly. Now this shows me the bright light where it ends and the dim light. Let me see if I can adjust this to make it a little more clear, because that's not terribly... Saying 200... Okay. No, that's not... That's right. Alrighty. So, that is how we set up. This is if he's carrying a torch with him, and it will reveal every area that it reveals, all players will also see. I use this sometimes as a trick to illuminate areas where there is like a torch or a bonfire or, you know, a magical illumination, and the players don't have anything. I'll have it like shining ahead. So sometimes I recently used it for kobold candles in our Warcraft game, where the kobold candles gave off 2 feet of light, but anyone who saw it could see the light. So the players, even though they were in, one of them was in darkness because he didn't have dark vision in this mine, he was able to see ahead and see where those kobolds were. He could only see the little dim light of where they were. He couldn't see around them. But it's a cool trick to play with the atmosphere of the thing. And again, Control L is what lets you see what the players see. And the reason it's so dark all around right now is because the GM opacity is set up quite high. Easy to go back in, go in dynamic lighting, adjust that if you need to adjust something yourself, and there you go. Last thing I'll show you on this map is the GM layer. So let's say, let me find a picture of an orc. Rawr. Winter orc. Not a torch, an orc. Here we go. Orc bruiser. So let's bring this orc bruiser in. Boom. And see how he automatically resized to the grid. Where he is right now, my players could see the orc bruiser because he is on the same layer. Let's say I want him to lay an ambush. He's sitting up here in this tree and he's waiting. And actually, let's show you one other thing too. This orc bruiser is actually an orog. He's half orc, half ogre. And he's big. So let me, just like I did with the map, grab one of the corners, drag it down, it'll automatically snap. Now he is a large size creature, at least in 3rd edition going forward. But I don't want him to be seen, so let's do this. We're going to send him to the GM layer. Again, that's a right click on their GM layer. Now he's opaque like that. Let me zoom in so you can see it better. See how transparent he is there? That tells me he's on the GM layer. Players can't interact with him. I can't interact with him. Can't do anything. But what it allows you to do is go to the GM layer on the left there. If I want to reveal him, Droon, completely oblivious to the situation, has been making his way up. And then I say 1, 2, 3. And an O-Rog drops down. And then for the player's perspective, what will happen is suddenly, poof, this thing appears. It is one of my favorite things to do with Roll20 as well. It's a fun way of playing a visual kind of, you can have a whole army of things if you want stuff popping up from the ground, you know, or through walls or whatever. That's a really fun way to set them up ahead of time, have your table ready to go. If you buy any of the pre-made modules, you need to be mindful that almost none of the characters are set up on the GM layer. So you're going to want to be careful for whether you want things to be laying in secret and hide and then only reveal them if the players spot them, or whether you want them to just be a natural thing that if players have line of sight and sufficient lighting, they can actually see where the enemies are. So that is, let's see here, I think that's everything that I need to talk about for setting up the map right now. Let's talk about some of the other tools on the left, just so we got the last of our fundamentals down here. So this first one, the box, will tell you what layer that you're going to be on. So you can go to the map and background layer, objects and tokens, GM layer, dynamic lighting. Almost always when I have screwed something up on the map, it is because I'm on the wrong damn layer. It's because I screwed up something and I'm trying to show the player something or grab something or whatever. So just if you're having a problem getting something set up or accessing something, check that as a potential problem. Next is the drawing things. You can add text, you can add lines, you can add draw shapes, you can do freehand. And one of the cool things, I'm on the objects and tokens layer. So here's what the freehand looks like. It's and some players who are not just trying to show things on the map will do that. And some players who are trolls will do that. You as the DM can always select it and delete it. For myself, I generally have a rule that the players don't draw on the map because it just makes a mess, and it also creates objects that they may accidentally select, or I might accidentally select. I prefer that players, when they're trying to indicate something, that they make use of these rulers that we talked about as to point. But I mean, make a decision for whatever's best for your table. You can also make use of that too. If you wanted to, let's say Droon decided to he has access to a rock wall, and he creates a giant wall along there. What I might do is say, okay, well, let's say he's around there, you know? And if you're really clever and you had your dynamic lighting set up, you could also go back to the select tool, select that, copy it, go down to your dynamic lighting layer, paste it, and now you have a representation of the line of sight blocking of that rock wall. Just one of the tricks you can use with all the different layers. And then let's see here. There is, what is this here? Oh, this is special effects. I never ever make use of this stuff. I'm sure some people think it's cool, but like, watch this here. I'll do a beam. There's my line of acid. If that adds to your game, you know, like, I mean, I've talked about how much I like Roll20 or the dynamic lighting and stuff. If that adds to your game, awesome. You know, make full use of it. I don't think it adds, for myself, it doesn't add to my games, you know, but do what's right for your table. It's there if you want to use it. You can use beams, missile, nova. Let's do a fire nova here. Boom, 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 boom. So, you know, it's, now that I'm doing it, I'm I'm really enjoying it. So I don't know. Make a judgment call for yourself as to whether you like it or not. Next up is the zoom feature. It's got some preset zooms in there, but again, I find if you're gonna, you could use the slider on the side here to zoom things around, or you can use Alt and then the mouse wheel. Make sure you're not using Control and the mouse wheel, because that, if you have your mouse too far over to the side, it'll change the size of your browser, and you may not want to do that. Alt and the mouse wheel. Another trick you can do to navigate around is right-click hold down right click, and you can drag your map wherever you want. So if you want to move yourself over, especially with really big maps, and zip yourself along, you can use your right click. Next is the measuring tool. I think I mentioned what that does and how you set that up. There is the reveal or hide. What this is, if you want to be revealing parts of your map manually, you use these tools to do that. So and if there's a nice little handy one to reset permanent darkness. So instead of using that explorer mode that we talked about before, you want to manually show everything. That's how you do that. These are kind of legacy items or legacy tools. Hide areas and reveal areas is helpful if, like, you want to be able to say you got a map and the players have been there before and they're familiar with the layout. You might want to use that to show them the places that they're already familiar with. You know, you still have line of sight, but they know what the map looks like. This is the turn order. Depending on what sheet you're using, there may be a way that you can have the order of your characters set up. So, like, when you roll initiative for 5th edition or for Pathfinder 2, let me go to the character sheet here. Let's, can I roll initiative here? All right, perception, initiative. So what I've done there, you can't see it because my stupid head's in the way. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, folks, I keep forgetting that I got my head there. So what I did is I clicked on Droon's token to select that. You're always going to want to do that. I always preface rolling initiative with select your token and then roll initiative, because I want to make sure the players remember. In Pathfinder 2nd edition, this is where I roll it. We're not going to get into the rules of Pathfinder, but Pathfinder has a lot of different skills you can use. It is a skill-based, Pathfinder 2 at least, skill-based initiative system. We click on that, and then whatever is rolled, you'll see it shows up in the chat. Remember, I promised we were going to see what else shows up in chat. There it is. What that will also do is populate it with Droon. Now, if you didn't bother to create a character sheet for your characters, like, say, my buddy the Orc here, well, what we can do is right-click, add a turn, boom, and then we can roll for his initiative. Let's say he's got a perception of 2, so I'm going to hit /R 1d20, d20 plus 2. Oop, no, it's plus Q. That's not what I want. 1d20 plus 2. Boom, a 7. So it will not automatically populate, but I can always go in here, hit 7, ba-doom, and there he is. Now, what I can do is I can adjust the order of these things if I choose to. I can click on this cog here, and it gives me a number of options. I can have them descending. That's already set up that way. I can have it ascending. So I'll start with that and go higher. I can A to Z, by card, by suit, by whatever I want. So let's go descending, because that's how that game works. And then at the end of the encounter, we now need to roll again. I'll just click on remove all turns, and boom, all gone. I'm ready for my next turn. Most often I forget to do that, so I end up having to kind of erase things. But if you're a more organized DM than what I am, you will remember to do that. You will want to always click on tokens, because sometimes it'll screw up. It'll tell you that, I'm looking for a token, but I can't find it. Not every character sheet in Roll20 works that way, but a lot of them do, and it's a very handy way for a sequential initiative sequence to do that. The Shadowrun one is awesome as well, too, because it actually and the hero system one is freaking crazy, because you can have all the different phases and whatnot tracked out. You do need to add other API features in there for it, but anyway. Then next thing down is Dice Roller. This is the final tool we're going to look at. The last one is just questions. So if you don't want to use the typed tool to type in what you're rolling, what you can do is select your basic rolls here. So let me roll a d20 here. Boom, it automatically rolls down there. I want to set up an advanced roll. So let's do that 1d20 plus 2 for Joe the Orc's initiative. It's rolling the dice, 17. You can also have compounding dice, exploding dice, separate dice. So if you don't have a character sheet set up that will specifically roll the type of dice you want, then you can do it there. And then a nice thing I like is this reroll feature. If you are playing a version of a game that does not have a very robust character sheet, one of the helpful things you can do is just populate your screen with your most common roles. So like when I'm running Hero System, one of the hero sheets is not great. It doesn't have a lot of extra functionality. So what I'll do is I'll get players to, if they say have an 8d6 regular attack and they have a 12d6 regular attack, I'll get them to put /R 8d6, boom, /R 12d6, boom. Now, when they need to re-roll that again, they can just go to here and click re-roll. So they've got it an easy access. They don't need to keep typing in each time. It's not a huge inconvenience to type it in, but it's just an option. One thing I'll point out in the results here, you'll see that some of the colors, some of the dice are showing up green, some are red, and I haven't got any results here yet, but sometimes you will find a result that is blue. A green is the highest number you can roll on that dice. A red is the lowest number you can roll on that dice, and a blue is when there is a mix of the two. So it depends on the character sheet, it depends on the dice combo that you're rolling, but sometimes it works out, sometimes that shows up, sometimes it doesn't, but it's really not. The green is the important thing if you're playing with a system that has critical hits. So if you want to know when your nat 20 or whatever matters, or if you have an exploding dice, it gives you a nice little visual cue for that, and that's what that means. All right, so we've taken care of all the things on the side here. We've taken care of all the things on the top here. Now let's talk about, and we've created some sheets here. Now, one thing that my buddy Arlen has pointed out to me today is I have a terrible habit of just keeping to copy the same thing, the same maps, and I never bother to change the names like I'm doing here. So let's say I'm going to change this to Winter Wonderland, and I'm going to change the other one to Bayou Boogie. Now, to be honest, if you look at the map, you can see what the map is probably going to be. But sometimes that's not the case, and sometimes it's a good habit to get into. When you duplicate a sheet, it will duplicate the name as well, and then it'll say copy in brackets. The reason why you would duplicate as opposed to creating a new page will create a new page at the same size, dimensions, dynamic lighting, and whatever else that you set as the default for that game. In this one, it's going to be white background, gray, grid, no dynamic lighting. You could change that, or you can duplicate whatever is easiest for you. So, one thing I want to do, let's talk about one nifty tool that I promised we would get back to. That is the transmogrifier. Now, transmogrifier is an experimental feature, but I have not had any significant issues with it since I started using it. What the transmogrifier allows you to do is to steal pages from one Roll20 game and bring them over into a second one. And I think I just realized one problem I'm going to have is I can't remember what I named my maps in Roll20. So let's say that what I want to do is just copy over an existing map with all the features from one of my other games. I'll go to Transmogrifier. And then what I'll do is select one of my other games. So let's see. Let's go to Night Below. So what it's going to load up for me is all the things that can be copied over from the Night Below campaign into this one. What I'm hoping is that I can easily identify my map of Middenmark and Herrenshire and copy it over. There are a lot of pages and a lot of stuff in that, and a lot of handouts. That game is 96 sessions old now, so there's a lot of stuff. Maybe this was a poor one to select. But let's see if it breaks. We haven't broken the transmogrifier yet, so let's see how bad we break its brain now. It says loading, loading, loading. I'm going to give it another minute or so, and if it doesn't load, then what we're going to do is we're going to go into a game that has less crap in it. So this may just be overtaxing the transmogrifier. So let's do this instead, unless it pops up behind me. Let's first do this. Let's go to a Barovian Funeral. So here's a couple of maps that I had for that. including some great maps of Barovia and whatnot, handouts. Let's switch back to Night Below. Are you going to work this time? Yeah, look at that. Hot damn. And I even labeled the map. That's great. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move my Herronshire map from here into here. Drag it from one side. I'm left-clicking, dragging it over. Add to campaign. Yes, please. Now, when I go to my... Let me close this down. Go to my list of maps. Well, looky here. Now I've got my map of Herronshire. And it has duplicated everything that's on there, including my tokens for all the player characters that are there. And did it copy the scale? And look at this. It even copied the scale properly. Because you'll see on this map, what I did is I set up the units to measure the appropriate distance in miles for this thing. So now when we make use of our tools, it's not feet we want to show, it's miles. This is extraordinarily helpful for navigating. Another thing you can do when you're doing your measuring, if you right-click, it'll create a stop point, and you can keep on measuring. So if you're measuring around weird things, or you want to measure the length of a river or something like that, you can keep right-clicking and keep going, and it will create those stopping points, and it'll go over. Now, let's get rid of all these tokens. I don't need... Oop, wrong thing. Here we go. Get rid of all these tokens here. Boom, because I don't need it in this thing. So I got my map, and that's great. And that saved me a whole bunch of time. I don't need to set it up anymore. I don't need to put the map down. It's just ready to go. I can do that with any of the maps I have in any of my other games. Grab them with the transmogrifier, drop them in. Same thing with handouts. So let's say I want to transmogrify a handout from that campaign. Let's see if it'll easily load again. Nope, breaking its brain. Let's go to Barovian Funeral first. Come on, transmogrifier. Run, you little horse. Oh my goodness. Let's go to a small one. Oh. Nope. You know, I may need to reconnect here. Oh, whoa, whoa. That looked like it was working. Was it working? I don't know. There we go. Beautiful. So let's go to... yeah, this is Night Below. Let's go to... Let's bring another character over here. Let's bring Dorman Kettleborn. So Dorman. We're going to bring Stormin Dorman from here over. And I want to show you what happens when you bring... That campaign is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. This is not. Let's also bring a handout over of Bugbear, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to use Bugbears in this game. Now, my handout has already showed up, but it's showed up with the permissions that I had set for my previous game, which is to say all the players can see it. I don't want that. I want to surprise them with it. So I'm going to go into Edit It. I'll go to Who Sees It. I'll take that out. Save it. Now there's no longer any blue dot next to the name, and only I can see the Bugbear Stalker, as is appropriate. Now, when I go into Dorman's character sheet that we saw in the other game, or if we had looked at it, would be AD&D 2nd. It has all the notes that John has created for his character, so all the things that were in the previous thing that were player-generated in the notes portion here, that's all there. But when we go to the character sheet, you'll see it's translated over some things where there have been cognates, so like AD&D has Strength, Dex, Con, Intelligence, Wisdom, and whatever. So does Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So it's populated those regions with that, but nothing else is described. There's no skills, because they're not the same thing as proficiencies. There's nothing in his inventory, because none of that will translate directly over, and nothing in his spells, because nothing translates over directly. So I would have to fill out whatever my conversion of it is, but a lot of the heavy lifting is done already. So Dorman. Let's show you one neat way that we can make use of our companion. Stormin Dorman is probably going to be an illusionist. So let's go into spells, and let's find. Let's see here. What's a good illusion spell? I'll check in with I haven't checked in with chat since I started this. I'll check in with you guys in a moment here. Chat, what's a good illusion spell that we can use here? What do you think? Maybe Phantasmal Force? Let's see here. No, hold on. Let me just clear out This here, Phantasmal. There we go, Phantasmal Killer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on this, drag it over. I'm going to put it in spells. See how it highlights like that? Leave it, and it should, boom, populate. So now, I click on the cog, it will show me all the different features of that. And look at all those areas that have been filled in. And if I had set up his other numbers correctly, if I'd set up his attack roll and whatnot, it would all populate in there as well. And when I do add that stuff in and correct it, it will update that. So it's a very, very handy way of keeping everything, keeping everything accurate. And when I click on it to cast it, it shows up in chat. So I have all the rules in chat for how that functions. That is not the case with every version of the character sheet you're using. It's certainly not true that it's as easy as to drag and drop the way it is in Pathfinder. Let's give Storm and Dorman something unusual as a weapon too, just to see how that shows up. Let's give him a halberd. Because a gnome with a halberd, is a gnome you don't want to mess around with. So here we go. It's an item. Let's see if we can drag and drop it down in here. Nope, doesn't go into that. Where's the items? Inventory. Go. Put into held items. Okay, halberd's there. Did it show up as an attack? Look at that. We have a halberd ready to go. And we'll make an attack with it. He hits AC 12. Not bad for a gnome with no levels in anything and a 15 strength score. So pretty good. That's one of the things I particularly like about the AD&D or the D&D 5th, the Pathfinder 2nd, the Starfinder character sheets is this functionality of dragging and dropping. It makes it really easy to bang together characters if you need them in a hurry. Adjusting character sheets, one of the things you want to look for on almost all of them is these little cogs here. They will generally give you access to other information. So we know Storm and Dorman is a very agile little gnome, so we're going to put his acrobatics score at expert. So let's see, E10. And then let's adjust his scores here. So his adjusted score, base score, let's put at 15. And we'll save it. That now will properly, when the character sheet incorporates information from another version on another character sheet, it doesn't always actually do the math properly. Like you'll see that the dex score and whatnot, like none of that's actually adding up properly right now. 17 shouldn't have a 0 modifier. 17 should have a plus 3 modifier. But if I go into this, click that cog, put the score base at 17, and hit enter, boom, it calculates it properly. And I hit the cog once again to close it down. When you are seeing things calculate improperly, like I was trying to figure out what's going on with this character sheet here. Here's the problem. So my ancestry, I don't know if this is correct. I just need this to add up properly. Is ancestry, let's say, is 4 hit points. So there we go. Class, let's say it gives 5. Boom. 5 per level. Why is that? So did I put him at... Oh, because he's level 6. Look at that. It did correct. So he's level 6, which means it's 6 times 5 class level hit points plus 4 is 34. If my con was higher, let's put it at 15. See what happens. Look at that. It automatically calculates to have that correctly. If math is going wrong on your character sheet, especially for the ones that are from the publishers or from Roll20, it's usually a problem between keyboard and chair. It is something that you've entered incorrectly. It's not that the sheet is doing the wrong thing. It's that you've put something in the wrong space. So I wouldn't get frustrated with it. Each one of these sheets, it's a matter of a learning process of sometimes poking around and trying to figure out why things weren't working properly. I want to show you one quick thing here too. When we go back to our buddy Dorman, Storm and Dorman. So Storm and Dorman, or Droon. I'm sorry, this isn't Dorman, it's Droon. So there's Droon's token. Let me make it real big for you. There we go. So there is Droon's token, almost as big as my face. Droon's token currently reads 20 out of 20. Let's go into Droon's character sheet, and let's correct what his hit points should be. We're going to put in ancestry of, again, I don't remember what the dwarf ancestry is. We'll put it in as 6. We'll put his class in as 5, and we'll give him 5 levels. Now I'm going to hit save. Boom. 31. And then let's go in here once again to the token. For this token, I have it set as none. The red bar is currently set, you'll see, as no attribute. But let's see what happens when we scroll down in this big list here and put it as his hit points. Well, lo and behold, it updates to the 31. Hit save. So he currently has 20 out of 31 hit points. And if we look at his character sheet, we'll see max hit points 31, current is 20. Here's another neat trick. If you double click, left click on a character sheet or a token or not a token, a handout, it'll minimize into this nice handy little bar here. If you need to have a bunch of things open, it's a helpful way to keep the character sheet open so you're not constantly going back to the tab, but out of your way. Now, let's say he gets slapped with a healing spell for 8 points. We'll do +8 on the token. Because we have set it up to correspond with the character sheet, his current hit points is now displaying as 28. So that's really helpful. And you can set the different bars that are in there if you want to track, the shield hit points or you want to track hero points. I often use the yellow. In Pathfinder 2nd, you use hero points. I often set it up as such. Max is 1, current 1, and we hit save. Now when I go into Drune's character sheet, it should show me hero points 1. Let's give him 3 now. There we go. And let's see what happens. Look at that. He's got 3 now. So it's a nice way to, what I tend to do in my games is I get the players focused on making adjustments where they can to hit points, whatever things, mana, if you're playing a game that has that, resources like key points or action, what are they called? Can't remember what the tactical points are called for a Battlemaster fighter, but those points, anything that's a disposable thing, you can usually sync that up on the token. You'll see that, because of the way that I've set up this thing, it does obscure some of his art in there. But the reason I like setting it up that way is because, where's my orc? Where's my buddy the orc? Is if I rescale this down, and then I'll copy the sucker, and I have ones all around him, which happens more often than you'd think in my games. I don't have to worry about the player losing track of that information because it's been obscured by one of the tokens around there. So that's the reason I set it up. If you have another preference, you could set them, it's this area right here that I'm looking at. Let me move it out of my stupid head. I could have them top overlapping. So if I want to see his face, see that? I could have them above. So it's actually above his token. But here's where the problem is. Oh, where is it here? To front. Oh, it didn't. It's showing over right now. Maybe they changed it since I last did it. The default way that, let's see here, 5th edition ones show up above and the hit points are green. Pathfinder, I can't remember, but let's go into the token. Let me show you one other cool thing that the Compendium can do. If you have purchased any of the bestiaries, you will find full rules for the monsters are set up in the chart here, or in the Compendium. Let's make life interesting. Adult Magma Dragon. That sounds like something that Drune, what do you call it? Hammer, whatever, can handle here. So let's bring an Adult Magma Dragon. I'm left clicking, dragging it over, and brawr. So it shows me what the dragon is. This is the full rules for it. There is now, where's my token? Where's my token? Where'd he go? Oh, you know what he's done is I think he has populated in, there he is. Drune is in trouble. Oh my goodness. Here's the other cool thing with these automated, and this is for the 5th edition one and for Starfinder and for Pathfinder 2 as well, is now I also have an Adult Magma Dragon in here. So if I want to if you're the type of DM who likes running or rolling your dice in the screen in front of the players, you can do that very easily now. Now that that's been dropped in there, let me click on, there we go, Fearful Presence. So now poor Drew needs to make a DC 30 will save or potentially have a heart attack. I mean, rightfully so. Look at the size of that thing. The other cool thing is I can make attack rolls in here using it. So I'll use my claw attack. 42 attack. Jesus. I don't think that things are going to last long for our Droon. And that's the cool thing, is that it has the art, it has the proper sizing for it, it has the full character sheet for it, and then to avoid getting your bar here too full, what you might want to do is use that third option, add a folder. Let's call this folder to prompt me to see who they are. Let's call this Monsters. Yeah, Monsters. That's really boring, but we'll call it that. How about Marvelous Monsters? There we go. Marvelous. Did I spell Marvelous wrong? Is there two L's? God, my ignorance is showing. There we go. Okay, Marvelous Monsters. Then what I can do is these monsters, I can grab my adult magma dragon by hovering over where those little bars are when they show up. The avatar disappears. I left click on it. I drag him up, and boom, he goes into there. And if I want to condense this folder, I just do that. Boom, 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 boom. Let's add one other popular folder in my games. Valhalla, aka the Graveyard, because I feel that our brave dwarf will not be long for this world, so let's bring him over to Valhalla. We close it down, and there you go. This is a helpful way. You can create folders within folders within folders and whatnot, so it's a helpful way to organize handouts or other monsters or characters. If you're using the same game for multiple campaigns, that's a helpful way to do that. A lot of my one-shots, I just use the same game for it. Like for Star Wars, I've got a couple of ones. I find those are easier, and then I use folders to organize what particular thing. Our Eberron game has two different groups of heroes, 2 or 3, and I just use folders to organize that stuff. So, and then when you want to get rid of it, let's say I don't need to keep track of that marvelous monster anymore. I can right-click on the character, or the item, I should say. It'll give me an option to archive it, which means it's going to stick it away in a folder that you can then retrieve later on, or you can delete the item. I'm never going to use this. After hearing how much crying that Droon's player did, I'm never going to use a Magma Dragon against them again. So let's delete that item, and it's gone. Boom. And now that folder is empty. And if I want to delete that folder, delete the folder and its contents, because I can't tell if I spelled marvelous right, and then miraculously, Droon is restored to life for the mercy of the merciless Game Master. We'll bring him back to characters, and he's once again available there. So that's how you navigate that stuff. That's one of the very cool things that is I really like about the what do you call it? The Compendium feature for the monsters. If you're keeping on top of those things, it does cost money. Like, you got to pay for it, and I mean, some folks don't like paying for things that are just digital because, you know, when Roll20 goes the way of the dodo, you're going to spend money for something that doesn't. You know, you don't have any way of accessing it once Roll20 goes, but I find it to be, I mean, I shouldn't say, I find them very helpful. I don't mind spending the money on it because when I do run these, it makes it so easy to drag and drop. You can also change things, once you've introduced it into your game, you can make changes to it the way you can with any other character sheet. So if you want to hide certain things, or you want to change the icon or the avatar or whatever you want to do, you can do that. You can reskin things very easily by renaming it. So like if you, I've reskinned Boule in in one of my Pathfinder 2 games to be a giant shark, because I couldn't find good stats for a giant shark, but the Boule was great, so I just made sure that things were renamed in it, so when I clicked my attack rolls and stuff like that, it showed up as it was a giant shark, not a Boule. That you can do in any of the games that allow you to drag and drop characters. So let's see here. What other fundamental stuff do you need to know right now? We've done navigating around the folders, we've done making use of the Compendium. We set some music. We didn't use macros because I don't use macros. You've seen how things show up in chat. We've incorporated stuff using the transmogrifier. Once again, if you want to show where the players are, make sure you're using that red ribbon. Alt and the mouse wheel will get you to zoom out. Let's check in with chat. Let's see if we got some specific questions here from chat. Let's see here. Guys, oh my goodness, lots of questions here. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Corey. Thanks so much. That's great. Oh yeah, Gabriel Pickard. Pickard, I believe is how you spell his name. Garth the Amp. What else here? Is the cost $50 a year? You know, Wayne, I was going to check. A good question. What the cost of a Roll20 is? I thought it was $12 a month for Pro. I was very, very, very fortunate this year because my players in my Night Below campaign all contributed to buying my membership for Roll20 this year. So I didn't have to pay this year, so I can't remember. Kevin, press 1 if you're being held hostage. Yes, thanks. Will do. I appreciate that insert. Okay, so that's... I don't know. You'd have to double check the current pricing on Roll20. I'm sorry I don't have that answer at hand. I think that there are only 2 levels of access now. There is like Pro, which gives you access to all the different tools, and there is the like free version that I think you're capped at 3 games, and that's I think it. You could, if you're looking to play, you can play as many games as you want. I have no idea if there's a limit to the amount of memory you can have for different images saved into Roll20 or how many games you have, but I haven't come close to that in running 5 years of running an awful lot of games on Roll20. So that's been, yeah, there aren't any restrictions there. Let's see here. Select portions of the Beastie Boys. Yeah, you can definitely load any music clips that you want into the game, guys. I don't in mind because I don't want to run afoul of copyright issues when I'm streaming. Camera positions. I remember... Okay, something about placement of cameras. So I'm not going to talk about setting up cameras as far as like the for streaming is. That's a different video than just the Roll20 one, because there's using OBS like what we do for streaming. It doesn't make use of any of the for ourselves we use just the cameras that are in Roll20. We don't use separate cameras and then have things set up for really just like subjective aesthetic reasons. But yeah, what else here? Back in my day. Okay. Yep, there we go. Just setting up the lighting. Yep. Okay, so I don't... Yeah, Control L, totally agree, Crumb. Control L is terrific. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other specific questions about this. So let's talk about changing this. So let's say that we want to have this game in Roll20 or in D&D 5th. So any tips for spell templates? 50-foot square or spell radius or 20-foot cube. All right, so there's different ways. That's a good question. Different ways you can do that. Let's go over to Druin Square. He survived that magma dragon. Let's say he's gonna... Well, a couple different ways. Let's say he's gonna create an aura of fire around him, and the aura will be 15 feet out, 15-foot radius. So one thing I can do is I can go into his token. Let me zoom in a little closer here, so you can get the full glory of him scorching some Orkin. Let's see here. We'll go in here. I can go down. There is an aura, token aura. Let's give him 15-foot radius. Let's make it a nice orange hue to match the righteous flames that will be coming out from our dwarf. And then hit save. Save settings. Come on, game. Save. Look at that. 15 feet out from him. Now, that is just around the token. You can also get rid of that just by hitting that down to 0. 0. Boom. Gone. Now, our orcs are gone, so let's get rid of that crap. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to move his token or his display back to bottom overlapping because it drives me nuts being anywhere else. Now, Druin is going to Let's say he's going to use a 5th edition style, or 4th edition style, I should say, cone. He's going to do Burning Hands. I know he's not a mage, but whatever, live with me. One way you could do that is by creating an object. You can go to Draw a Shape. Let's make it nice and red. Boom. I'm going to start in one of these corners here. I'm going to draw down. Oh, I did free draw. Damn it. Hold on. Get rid of that. Nope, not Drune. Not Drune. I don't want to get rid of Drune. Delete that. I could hit Control Z on that as well, too. Let's go to Draw Shape. We're going to make it nice and red. And so draw a rectangle. It will draw automatically. If I want to draw a circle or an ellipse, I hold down Alt and it's Shift to snap to grid. So I want this to snap to grid, so I'm holding down Shift and I'm going to start drawing. Boom. There's 20. Oh, I drew it in the wrong place. So what I'm going to have to do is move it. So it's a 15. Let's say I think that in 4th edition, Burning Hands is 15 by 15. So there's my square. I held down left as I dragged out, and then by holding down Shift as well, it has snapped it to grid. So I got a perfectly sized thing here. Now let me move it. Now I mentioned that sometimes, so I can grab hold of this one. That's not too bad, but sometimes I find it's tricky to do that. So what you can also do is, let's say this is in the original position. I had it misplaced. I'm now going to move it. Let me select it, and I'll use my arrow keys, bloop, to move it perfectly in place. And I got my Burning Hands going off in that direction. What you could also do is, if you want it to be a circle instead, like say a handy, now Drune is standing in for our resident dirt elf, and he wants to create a pit, because he really enjoys making those pits. I hold down Alt to make it a circle, and I'm going to hold down Shift, have it snap to grid. So I'm going to make it, there we go, 20 feet by 20 feet. That looks about right. So I'll stop holding down my left and Alt and Shift. Now I've got, and once again I screwed up. Control Z. Nope, damn it. Control Y. Oh, Control Y doesn't work. All right, let's try this one more time here. Roll20 is unfortunately not idiot-proofed, so, you know, if you're a dummy, like me, sometimes, let me grab this here, and because it's tricky to move around, there we go, let's put that pit right there. And what I sometimes do is someone had a suggestion for this, which was really helpful, is I create a campsite page where I store everything. So I have like the characters on there. If they're attacking the campsite, I always go to that map, but it also keeps things like regular things they would summon, like earth elementals or, you know, shadow creatures or whatever, and templates as well too, and spells. So like if I want to create, say, Flaming Sphere, my go-to for that is I go in here, I type in fire, I look for a circular fire. Hold on, is it flame I put in normally? Flame, maybe flame. Where is the circle? Okay, there's those things. I'll scroll down. Oh my gosh, where is it? Oh, you know what? I'm looking for tokens here. Flame. Here we go. So we got some nice circles of flame down here. Let's grab this sucker here. There we go. And then what I'll do is, let's say it's a 20-foot square thing. All right, well then make that a little bigger. Or that's 10 feet. 10 feet, 20 feet, boom, boom, real big. Then if it's something that players are going to want to control, is I will go in and I will just give them control. So let's say that I don't have any other players other than myself in here. Let's say I want to give only Dungeon Muser the control over this. I just hit Controlled by and hit Save. Now, the player, Dungeon Muser, can grab this and move it around and whatever. So for Flaming Spheres, I keep one copy of a Flaming Sphere in my game. I also, because I like the level of realism it brings, I will also often set that so that it gives off light. So that when I cut and paste it and put it down, like for a campfire or whatever else, it'll already have that lighting set up on there. That won't come into play in everything. Like in daylight, whether Flaming Sphere gives off light or does not, doesn't make a hill of beans difference. But if you're in a dungeon and you summon it and you send it out to a distance, then, you know, it's cool when the players can then use that in a creative way to reveal what's down the, you know, the hallway. So that's how I do it. There's definitely going to be other ways to do that too. There may be add-ons that you can make use of, but for myself, that's how I, use those tokens. The thing I like about it too is when we are done, you can just delete it and you're done and you're gone. You could easily use any other feature. So like one thing that I like about Gabriel's maps is they often come with the stuff you can use to cobble together your own custom maps, so like trees and whatnot. You could easily, if you had like Awakened Tree as a spell, you know, boom, let's put this one in here. I'll make it a little bigger. I can use my tree, and then I would just give control over this token to the players, and there is your Airsats Trunt. Rawr, coming to get Droon. It wasn't the magma dragon that's going to get you. It's the tree. Let's see your axes help you now. So that's how I would do the spell template. Let's see here. Anyone's tried any other systems because they compare? No. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I find Psycho Wedge says that it's not hard even if you don't know anything about graphic editing. Yeah, I find like for myself, I know a fair amount about like using Photoshop for drawing and painting and whatnot, and Clip Studio or similar programs. But that stuff, it helps me a little bit with this. But once you grasp the concept of these things being layers on top of one another and how they interact with each other, the map layer will always have the tokens on top, and the tokens cannot affect the map layer unless you've done something. The GM's layer is hidden from everybody until, or I mean all the players, until you reveal them, and neither the map nor the character tokens will interact with that. I almost always keep everything on the token layer that isn't immobile. So if there's a tree that I've added to a map, like in a recent map, what I did is I had to add a to give proper lighting in this one specific map, I needed to create a source of light, and I put it on the map layer so that I wouldn't accidentally move it around, because I knew I was going to have a shit ton of minions on there. Yeah, that's what that's an exception for keeping everything on the token layer, but otherwise I keep everything on the token layer because it's easy to moderate who has control over different things. By default, only the DM will have control over whatever they drop. So if I put my let's say, here we go, this dude with the machine gun. Rawr. Let's say you want to, incidentally, the other buttons that are on this, this is how you scale it in different directions. So if you want to make him short, tall, whatever, he's a dwarf now. Rawr. What I can do is control the who has, or alter the control features of the token so that players don't accidentally grab an enemy or whatever. Last thing let's do here, guys, and I'll check in with chat again, is let's say we want to make a 5th edition version of this campaign. So let's get out of this screen here. I can go to the cog, and I'll hit exit game. There's also an option there to play as to go in as a player if you want to test things out and see how it looks as a player. Okay, so thank you for playing Night Below Pathfinding. Well, you know, Roll20, you're more than welcome. Let's go to that game, though. Now, let's go to Settings, and let's go to Copy Game. So we're going to copy this sucker, and then I'm going to go back to Roll20, and where'd you go? Where'd you go, game? Why is the copied game not there yet? Let's hit refresh. What did I do wrong here? What did I do wrong? Let's see. All right, so Settings, Copy Game. There we go. I missed the prompt. So for this one, it says by default Night Below Pathfinding Copy. Let's call it Finding 5th, because we're going to convert these suckers over to 5th edition. Choose a character sheet. I will go to my drop-down menu here, and let's go to D&D 5 by Roll20. I'm going to take a look at it in the sort of summary here and say, yep, that's the sheet I want to use. I like that one. Then we look at what do we want to copy. So you have the option of what stuff you want to bring over. Do we want to bring any custom decks? Well, I mean, if we had any, sure, but I don't care. Chat log. No, let's not bring that over. It's a brand new game. We're not going to see what anyone else rolled. The journal with characters and handouts. Yeah, I want to keep all that stuff in there so I can avoid as much as I can rebuilding the wheel, or reinventing the wheel, I should say. Pages. Yep, I want to keep all those great maps we set up. And players in player settings, absolutely. I want everybody to be able to jump in who has signed up to play that game to see this show up in their list of games and jump in if they want to. Game forums, if you've got something set up on the Roll20 forums, you can do that too. And the jukebox, of course, we want our rocking Kevin MacLeod songs still playing. So let's create this game and see what happens. So we're copying the game content. Oh, sorry, I think my stupid head was in the way. Hopefully you guys didn't miss much of that. My apologies if you did. All right. So then this is being okay. It's been successfully copied over, it tells me. So let's take a look in this game and see what's going on. We didn't fill in any information apart from some spells and so forth. So let's see what a mess it's made. Sometimes it's kind of interesting seeing what it decides to try and translate over. So here's some great stuff that we're already seeing that has saved us some work. For one, the sheets are already set up. I can also hear the dulcet tones of Kevin MacLeod's composing, which means the music is already good to go. The sheets are all good to go as well, which is terrific. The placement of my camera is already in the right default place. There is also no video or voice on. It's already... Oh, my head's in the way. Yep. Right over here, the voice and video is already set up correctly. So that is terrific. And so here's what happens sometimes when you load into a game. It might get kind of pixelated like that. Just zoom in and out, and it'll snap back into focus. Sometimes it just needs a little, kick in the butt. I can move my screen over, and look at this. I've even got the right coloring for me and all. I love it. I am currently using my right click to just grab the map and move it around. So there we go. So I want to move around and see all of Middenmark. I'll see what it's done with the characters. So you look at the chat here. It's completely empty again and again. The invite to the game, I can highlight this and post it for anyone who wants to join it. But anyone who was already a player in it will already have an invite to the game. So they'll already be a member. Let's take a look at Dorman Kettleborn. So Dorman, look at that. All his backstory is still copied there. And it looks like... How do you want to create this character? Edit the sheet directly. Thank you very much. And what are you doing here? Go to core. Well, look at that. His gnome, race gnome, shows up properly. The level is not right. Hit points are listed. Sometimes when you copy it over like this, it's wonky. His spell, I was wondering whether Phantasmal Killer would show over, but it's funny, gnome didn't show up as an ancestry in Pathfinder 2, but it did show up here. That's kind of funny. And then what showed up for Druin is his hit points. Edit the sheet directly. And look at that. The hit points didn't show up for him. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. So, just like in the Pathfinder 2nd Edition one, what we can do here is, let's go to Dorman. Let's go to his Spells tab. And we'll go to the Compendium. Now, what spell? Let's try Phantasmal Killer again. Phantasmal, I can't remember if that's in 5th edition or not. Hey, it is. Look at that. We're going to grab it. We're going to drag it over. And you see where it pops up here, accepting drop from Compendium. That will tell you what things can and cannot be incorporated. The weird thing with 5th edition is that it feels like there is some stuff that's converted over and some stuff that so it can drag and drop and some stuff that is not. The stuff that is part of the free release for 5th edition is all set up properly so you can drag and drop it. So when I say properly, let's click on Phantasmal Killer. We'll cast at level 4. Why did it not show up here? Oh, you know what I need to do is boom, there we go. One of the neat things with 5th edition sheet is that you can have just the actual rolls show up, or you can click on this little, see that little speechy bubble thing, click on that, and that'll tell you what the full rules are. And if you need to edit that thing, you go to the I number there, the little floating I, and then go into the cog. That'll let you edit everything. Click the cog when you're done, hit the I to close it. So, I is what displays you the information about whatever you're entering there, if it's a feat, if it's a spell, if it's a racial trait, or whatever. The only thing is you need to, let's say and I'll try something that does not drag and drop, and I'm not sure if I can find something like that. Let's find gnome here. Okay, so race gnome. Now, I don't think this will drag and drop properly, but let's see. Oh, hold on. Yeah, it did. Look at that. Huh. I stand corrected. What the hell do I know? Let's try putting in sub-race rock gnome. Does this work? Yeah, it did. Holy shit. Look at that. Great. So, what, the reason I'm impressed by this is because, take a look at this. I got all my rules for being a rock gnome right in here. I can click on that little speechy thing. It'll show up. One cool thing with this as well that I like a great deal about, just like on the Pathfinder sheet too, is things that show up as attacks will automatically populate in your character sheet under the attacks on your first screen here. So let's say that Dorman is a illusionist, and by 2nd edition rules he can't cast evocations, but we're living in the 5th edition now. So that means he can learn Firebolt. Let's find... Oh, fire was... There's a lot of stuff that shows up under fire. Oh boy. Here we go, Firebolt. So, even though I wasn't under the spells tab, that should have showed up properly. Look at that. Shows up in there, under the spells, and under the core tab, I have it as an attack. So, boom. Remember I was saying that attacks, I couldn't remember whether at default it rolled both or it rolled one. See how there's 2 numbers here? What that does is if you're rolling at advantage or disadvantage, it already has that rolled for you. And if you don't have advantage or disadvantage, you just take the first number. I love that. No extra little step to set up things to roll with advantage, disadvantage, whatever. It's all just good to go. What I do prefer, though, is when I go into the character sheets, if I go to this cog over here, and this is just a personal preference, I want them to auto-roll damage and crit. I want one roll for everything when I'm using one of these sheets. So now, it automatically rolls damage for me. Let's see if we can roll a crit. Come on, game. How long do I have to... It's Roll20, so it'll be forever. This is going to be the next 3 hours of the video. Oh, never mind. Here we go. So I rolled a nat 20. The reason I wanted that to happen is because I can show you what the auto calculation of crit does. It automatically shows you. So if I was rolling with advantage or if I was rolling with no modifier, I rolled a nat 20. If I was rolling with disadvantage, it's a 5. Even if that had been a hit as well, if it was a 15 or something like that, it nicely separates out what the regular damage is with what the crit damage is. So it's pretty cool. And you can customize the character sheets enormously in this. Once you are familiar with messing around with the character sheets and you get them set up, like we use these games or these sheets in our 5th edition Warcraft game, which uses all custom classes. Like there's none of the classes track directly with the classes out of the player's handbook. But once we entered all the information in, including all the custom spells, it displays perfectly and it calculates perfectly as well. Just like in the Pathfinder sheet, we can also track stuff to the tokens if we want to. So let's put old Dorman Kettleborn. Look at that big mug. Jeez, what a guy. Okay, and I'll put this as his hit points. I'll put his red bar as his hit points again. But you know, I don't think we put hit points in yet. So that would be a problem. Each of the different sheets as well, too, has a different way of organizing the information from their sheets. So you sometimes need to scroll through these lists a little to figure out where the heck the proper information is. Sometimes it's actually by sometimes it's by alphabetical, and sometimes they cluster like the most important stuff in one spot and then everything else below. So I think this is one of those that does that. No, I'm wrong. Oh, I'm wrong. I just can't find it. Hit points, where's HP? Does it have that? Yeah, here we go, HP. So there's HP. Oh, wait, why isn't it not showing up? Oh, because I don't have it as anybody. I got to put it as representing Dorman Kettleborn. Now, oh, look at that. And now, check it out. Remember I was saying how some of this have clusters at the top there? Look at that. It's all handily right there. All the things you're probably going to want right away. Let's give him that, and then we'll... That's another one that we might want to have tracking. Hit dice. Hit dice is always helpful to track. So, hit dice. And it's great because you can customize if you want to, you know, if he dips some levels into monk, you could have key points, track in there. If it's sorcerers, it's the, whatever those points are called, sorceress, whatever the heck points. But in any event, that's how easy it is to switch over. And then again, so you got, if you're trying to duplicate an existing campaign into something different, you have 2 different ways of doing that. You can create a fresh campaign and then use Transmogrifier to pull things into it, or you can just duplicate an existing campaign and then adjust things to fit with the new character sheet. Obviously, first level gnomish wizard should not have 32 hit points, but yeah, that is that. Let me check in with chat once again and see if there's anything that I have missed. Otherwise, I feel like we're ready to play right now. Like we're pretty much, once you enter I'm not going to go through the tedious process of filling in the character sheets. I'll trust that you're able to do that. With some sheets, it will be a bit of trial and error, and some sheets you will just have to, they will not be fully automated. Our AD&D second sheets are very finicky, and they don't do everything. But we live with them, and it's better than just rolling dice and whatnot. So some sheets for some games you're going to find at most what they can do is track certain information. But the sheets for Pathfinder 2, for for D&D 5, for Starfinder, for Blades in the Dark, for City of Mists, for a ton of the ones that are at the top there, the ones that are made. The Star Trek Adventures sheet is amazing. The new Conan sheet is amazing. A lot of them have a ton of great functionality. One of the newest Hero sheet is quite good as well too. Really good. Lots of different dials and stuff for adjusting different combat options. Great stuff. One of the Shadowrun sheets is amazing as well too. Crazy how much versatility it has. So yeah, it really is just a matter then of getting yourself comfortable with using those tools and using them on the fly. When you first start playing, you don't need to know everything. Have fun, allow yourself to make mistakes, and then just learn from them, Let me check with chat, see if there's any other questions. What do I do to manage turn order? Good question. That depends on the game. It depends. So if I'm when I run fifth AD&D second, we use group initiative, and we use everyone adding in the number of their actions, so their spell, the casting time for their spell, the weapon speed of their weapon, or whatever amount of time it takes for other actions. So what we always do at the start of each round is I roll initiative first, and I'll show the guys what they got to beat, and then one of the players will roll it. He or she keeps rolling until they lose, and then when they lose initiative, it passes to the next person. Once I reveal that, and once we see what the player rolled, all the other players add the number for their speed into that, and that shows up in chat, and then we just go through the order lowest to highest. In other games where we, there's a turn sequence like in 5th edition or Pathfinder or whatnot, it's click on your token, roll initiative, I add into that turn order who the players are, and then we scroll through it. One thing I didn't show, I guess, was let's go to this map here quickly, and we'll add a turn for him. Boom. I'll go to the turn order. There we go. And let me add Dorman onto here. Dorman gets a turn. So what you'll do is, whatever's in green, that's the person who's acting right now. If you hit the arrow, it goes forward one. So now it's Dorman's turn, then Druin's turn, then Dorman's turn, then Druin's turn, then Dorman's turn, then Druin's turn, and so forth. If it's a sequential order where you roll at the start of combat and you stay to that order, I use this sheet all the time, which helps the players know when they're coming up, lets me know when my monsters are up, and so forth. One regular mistake, regular viewers of the channel will see me do this all the time, is watch what happens. Let's say I've got 6 Dormans out here, bunch of giant Dormans. They're fighting, Druin is fighting these Dormans, then he kills this first Dorman. So what I'll do is I'll kill that Dorman, but because it's the one that I selected to be in the turn order, now they suddenly drop out of the turn order. I do that all the time, it drives me nuts. So what you need to do is, if you're adding turns that way, I take the one that I added the turn on and I'll put it in a different part of the map just so I don't accidentally erase it. And then I just can feel free to delete the other ones that won't affect the turn order, but that's there. There is a fairly complicated macro you have to enter to make the hero system sheet work properly. Hero system, for those who aren't familiar, has a regimented order of actions that's based on your speed stat and your dexterity stat. And the sheet, one of the sheets at least, it does calculate all that stuff perfectly. And as long as you've entered everything correctly, it'll set everything up in the turn order, and it'll go, phase by phase by phase in order of dexterity, which is great. But if you screw it up, It is a colossal mess. It is such a pain in the butt, especially for a big combat. So it depends on the game. For AD&D, the turn tracker doesn't work great for that, and it would be a pain in the ass. And it's just as easy for us to look at the numbers that are in there. So that's our workaround for that. I still find that works faster than if we had been playing in person and I was, okay, who's next? Okay, who's next? Like seeing all the numbers down there, it makes it easy for me to just zip through the order and then go on to the next phase. But for D&D 5th, for those other games, we make use of the turn order. I hope that answers how in-depth are the ADD 2E sheets and the rules macros. So it depends on what sheet you're using. Some of the sheets have a great deal of like some sheets you can actually set up. They got macros that are built into them, so like you can click on yourself and you can click on another target, and then it'll automatically calculate all the attack rolls for you. And one of the AD&D sheets does that as well, and it's cool, but it's also a huge amount of extra work for the DM because you have to enter in all the info for whatever target you're targeting. I know the Iron Kingdoms sheets, the Iron Kingdoms or RPG sheets, they do that. And it's great. Like if you're choosing to use that, it's one drop. They click on their character, they click on their target, and it makes all the rolls, and it'll tell them whether they hit or not. But to get to that level of automation, the DM then has to put an extraordinary amount of work to setting up all the enemy characters in there. And for myself, it's a lot easier for me to just get them, for it to display, say what AC or defense or whatever target number, whatever system you're using, to see what the number is that they're hitting, and then just me tell them whether they hit or not. It's cool having that extra level of automation, but because it comes hand in hand with a lot more work for me, and filling out, I don't mind filling out character sheets in Roll20, especially when the payoff is for players is that they can just, they've got an easy and functional character sheet in front of them, especially if it's a game they've never played before. But it is very much like filling out a tax form, like the interesting stuff of creating the character and selecting powers and shit is done most often before you're entering the information. Roll20, you can use it for character generation, but it's not a replacement for a character generator like Hero Lab or something like that, or another online generator or D&D Beyond. It doesn't supplement for that. It's better than with a drag and drop feature in the Compendium than having to type all that crap in yourself or cut and paste from a PDF, but that's a lot of work. So if for your game that makes it easier for the players, that's great. But the D&D second sheet that we AD&D sheet that we use, it tells you what THAC0 you hit anyway, so that works out great. Like for us, that's fine. I don't need that extra level of automation, particularly when it makes more work for me. So, let's see here. Anything else? Okay. Why keep track of segment in chat? Yeah, and that's the thing. I like like I find depending on the game, chat is sometimes an easier way to do that. You can do other things too. Like if I was to run Warhammer 3rd Edition, Warhammer 3rd Edition has this cool ladder thing in it. Actually, so does Star Wars. Star Wars Fantasy Flight uses basically slots that you can fill in with any different character. Everyone rolls initiative, but it isn't key. Their role isn't keyed to a specific slot. Because that game is fairly theater of the mind, what you could even do is just actually have their tokens lined up and go this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. So players can move around and put them in the order that they want them to be in. So, it depends on the different games. For our AD&D, like I said, for the AD&D one, that works really well for us. Typing in everyone knows to do that now. With new players, it sometimes takes a little bit of time for them to wrap their head around it, but that's true of any game. So, yeah, but if it's a game that is well supported on Roll20 with a very comprehensive sheet, like Pathfinder 2nd or Pathfinder 1 for that matter, Starfinder, D&D 5th, any of those indie games that have terrific, even just to check them out too, the Blades in the Dark and the City of Mist character sheets in Roll20 are amazing. They're gorgeous and really functional, even for a game that is very theater of the mind, where you're not really going to be seeing a lot of map movements and stuff like that, it's visually beautiful. It's a cool representation and looks like an actual character sheet for both of those games. So it's a nice, really, really nice interface too. All right. So I think, guys, if that is, or folks, if that is all the questions, thank you. Again, for everybody who has subscribed to the channel over the last couple of years, whether you've been with us for, 5 years or you've been with us for, 2 days or a day or whatever, thank you so much for helping us hit that milestone. I hope that this has been helpful for you to, if you are using Roll20, to maybe learn a couple new tricks to help augment your games, or to, if you haven't used it, to show that it actually can be a really helpful and fun tool to make use of to make your games better, especially if with the way the time of recording, it looks like quarantine's still going on for quite some time in most of the world. Then if you're having to play online, hopefully this has shown you not only some ways that you can adapt what you're doing, but you can also introduce some things like dynamic lighting that you aren't able to do at the table, at least not easily. As is always the case, though, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the tutorial, the stream, anything else I've brought up, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section of the video, and I will endeavor to reply in a timely fashion. In addition, you can reach me by email. My email address is dungeonmusings@gmail.com. My Twitter handle is dungeonmusings@gmail.com. And you can find a link in the description of this video to the Dungeon Musings Discord server, where all of us are active. I keep saying all of us, I guess I mean me. So I'm active, as well as all the players in all the campaigns we run on the channel, as well as a ton of other great people. So there's a channel dedicated to virtual tabletops, not only advice for how to run them and how to work things, but like selecting between the different tabletops available. I myself, like, for the reasons I said at the outset, like I like Roll20, that's my go-to, but there's a ton of great tabletops out there that each are virtual tabletops that all have their own things that are helpful, and if you want advice selecting between them, you can find lots of great advice there. And that's kind of that. I think I'll bring this thing to a close just by saying once again that I thank you for everybody who joined us in chat, everyone who's watching this at a later time, everyone who's subscribed to the channel thus far. Thanks so much. There is also, last thing I'll say, at the time of recording, until April 1st, there's a link in the description of the video to something called Heroes Save Villages. That is the charity fundraising campaign we run on the channel. It benefits SOS Children's Villages International, a really terrific organization active in over 130 countries that benefits over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children. From now until April 1, 2021, for every $25 that you donate, you get one chance to win the grand prize or one of our other prizes available in the our charity raffle. The first prize is a copy of Beadle and Grimm's Platinum Edition Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's this amazing box set with maps and miniatures and a ton of extra great crap in it. At retail, it's about $500 American. It was donated by Beadle and Grimm as a prize for our raffle, and I'm paying for the shipping. So if you do win that, don't worry about paying for the shipping for that darn thing. If you don't win the grand prize, second prize is a silver edition from Beadle and Grimm of the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden. And we have other prizes, including a chainmail dice bag, including made by our resin armorsmith, one of our players, a dice tray, wooden dice tray made by one of our other players, a bunch of zines from one of our other players as well, too, some old school zines, and then a bunch of gifts for the Dungeon Musings Red Bubble Shop. So t-shirts, posters, mugs, lots of great things that you can win. And the best thing is that all donations go directly to SOS Children's Villages International. None of it goes to the channel. None of it goes to any other middleman. You just get a chance to win some awesome gaming stuff and to help out some kids who could really use some help. So with that, let me bring this sucker to a close. I'll say once again, thank you so much to everybody who has joined me for this. We hope you enjoyed. If you're joining us during the current crisis, I hope that this finds you healthy, safe, and weathering the current crisis as well as can be expected. I hope that I've given you a couple of hours. How long has this been so far? Almost 3 hours. Yep. That sounds about right. Oh, dang. A couple of hours to take your mind off of the troubles of our world and think about the troubles that you can avoid by taking some time and messing around with Roll20. Until we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, and happy gaming.